I've done vertical access, Impala Road. There's tracks of a herd of buffalo heading southwest. I'm following up on at the moment towards Impala Plains. So James is back, wondering where I'm wandering. Copy. So of course he's been meandering the subcontinent, looking at tigers and Indian rhinoceri and Asian elephants and deer. So I'm sure we'll have lots of lovely stories. And it is quite warm, 30 degrees Celsius. And it seems like everyone's hiding in the shade somewhere. Let's see if the tracks of that buffalo herd come out over here. If not, they might have headed straight into Arethusa. We're also going to go have a little wander around the area of Red Dam, where Jamie last had tracks of Shadow and Cub. And you can see that grass changing colour already, and there is a nip in the air in the early evenings and the early mornings. That signifies our dry season or winter months are upon us. There is not a mammal within sight, and we haven't seen a mammal on our whole drive so far. Okay, well, we're getting closer to the end of the pre-show show, and I'm going to zoot off. I don't think there's buffalo have come through here. I think they've gone further to the west, but we'll see if we can find them, and even better if we can find Shadow this afternoon with her wonderful little cub, who I have never seen. So quite exciting to go have a look for her. Oh, the buffalo are back on the road, walking that way. So we'll stick with the buffalo tracks while we've got them. So without further ado, I'm sure a lot of you can't wait to say welcome back to Commander Bond, James Henry. So toodles for now.
This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon everybody. It is 86 degrees Fahrenheit here, 30 degrees centigrade. It's a beautiful autumnal afternoon in Africa. This is Safari Live.
Ready.
Standing by.
You are live.
And a very, very special welcome to Hampton Oaks Kingston Elementary and Mountain Horeb schools in the United States, as far as I'm aware. Now, you're all between 7 and 9 years old. I'm unfortunately not going to remember all of your names today because there's simply too many of you in those classrooms. My name, however, is James Henry, and I would love to hear from you during the course of this drive. You can ask me anything you like about Africa or South Africa or the animals that we're hopefully going to see. So you just ask your teacher, and she will tell you she will ask, and then I will do my best to answer. Our plan today for the next 45 minutes while you're on safari with us is to head down this way to a waterhole. Now, as I said, it's 86 degrees Fahrenheit, so it's pretty warm out here. And so hopefully we'll find something there to drink. Now, the last thing I'm going to tell you before I hand you over to my very brave friend Jamie is that Martin is on camera today. Show us your thumb, Martin. There it is. It's quite a long thumb, that one. Let's head across to Jamie now. She's on foot, wandering about, and she's going to find you lots of beautiful small things today.
And a very good afternoon to all of you, and welcome on our Sunset Safari. My name is Jamie, and the far braver person by far is Senzo, who is on camera with me. So he's out on bushwalk, and I have explained to all of our regular viewers that Senzo's here on his job interview, and this is his chance to try out the bushwalk, which isn't very easy because being the bushwalk cameraman, you have to have a backpack and a camera, and it's all a very, very different thing to what you might otherwise experience. But already we've found some interesting animals to show you. So James has said he's going to check the water holes. Well, I've beat him to it, actually. Already we have a herd of wildebeest wandering about in front of us. And we've been very lucky in that this particular herd of antelope have been hanging out around the open area outside of our camp for the last few days. And so we've had a chance to watch them, and they really are quite strange animals. So for all of our school kids joining us, welcome. Don't forget to send through lots and lots of questions because we only have a brief period to spend with you, and we want to try and teach you as much as we possibly can about the amazing animals that you're looking at. So this herd of wildebeest consists of a whole load of females and their babies from the beginning of, when would it have been? Around about December time. Beginning of December, they would have had their wildebeest calves. And we've got a whole group of them. I can see 1 or 2 babies over there. And we're going to see if we can sneak a little bit closer. And while we go off in search of things to find on foot, Brent has found one animal that we definitely don't want to meet this afternoon.
Well, Jamie's correct, but we found more than one. We found about 150 to 200 of them. And a big welcome to Hampton Oaks, Mount Horeb and Kingston Elementary Schools for your very exciting live school safari. And we're sitting about 50 feet away from, as I said, about 200 Cape buffalo. So these are not water buffalo. They're not American buffalo. They don't even look like them. These are Cape buffalo, and they are incredible animals and very important animals here. Now, not only are they like a big lawn mowing service, they also fertilize as they go. So they're a very important species, and it's very nice. We haven't seen a big herd of buffalo in quite some time, and they've wandered in during the day, and I've actually been tracking them since I've been out this afternoon, and it's quite nice to catch up with them. Now, one of the exciting things about having a big herd of buffalo around is there's another animal that really likes buffalo. It likes buffalo more than we do, and that is lions. It's one of the lions in this area's favorite foods. So quite often buffalo herds will be followed by lions, although I think all the lions are going to be snoozing at the moment. It is quite hot, and lions don't deal well with heat. And even the buffalo like to rest during the heat of the day and chew the cud. Very, very nice. I was trying to remember now. I was chatting to Vim, who's on camera with me, and we're trying to remember the last time we saw a herd of buffalo. Oof, Vim, I think mine must be 3 or 4 months. On Juma. I've seen one on Cheetah Plains, but on Juma it must be a good 3 months since I heard of buffalo. Jan is wondering how many animals are in this family? Well, they have a big family, so it's difficult to say how many of them are related. So the way a buffalo herd works is you will have the majority of them will be females, subadults and young, and there'll be a core group of big bulls. Let's try find a big bull. That will be the breeding bulls, and they will travel with the herd and also will help defend the herd against buffalo. Against lions. So I'm going to just try to get around the light a little bit so we can get a bit of a better view, and I'll try to show you the difference. Well, I will show you the difference between a big male and a female's horns. That's the easiest way to tell the difference when you're looking at them like this. Okay. That's a young bull. Now we're trying to find a nice big old bull. Oh, there's an old boy in front of us for him. Oh, he's moving through, but we should walk through. Come out from behind the bush, mister. There we go. You can see his horns. They're really hard all the way to the center. That's called a boss. And Ryder was wondering, why do buffaloes have horns? Well, one of the main reasons, Ryder, is to fight with each other for girlfriends. And the other reason is to defend against lions. So there's a female. You can see her horns aren't hard all the way to the middle. They're soft, and it's made up of hair. Now, can you believe that all horns are made up of hair? So even antelope horns and deer horns are all compacted keratin, and that is the same thing as our hair is made out of. So the buffalo's horns are used in defense and in fighting amongst each other. Now, Joe is wondering, how are the buffalo here different to the buffalo in America? Well, your buffalo are actually bison, so they're completely separate species. Now, they also live in big herds, but they've got completely different horn and head structure, and of course they've got long, thick fur, because you get very, very cold in America. We don't get very cold. The coldest we probably get is about 30 or 40 degrees Fahrenheit during our winter months. So we're quite spoilt. We don't get very, very cold at all. Now, I was trying to see if there are any small babies. Now, the small babies will be kept in the middle of the herd, protected by all the other members. So that's one of the ways buffalo keep the babies protected from lions, is that they will all circle around the young ones. And so you must think, even if you're a big apex predator like a lion, approaching a wall of horns like that is not going to be too fun. Now, sometimes people who are not used to Africa get a little bit confused between buffalo and wildebeest, but the buffalo is not an antelope, but Jamie's got an antelope called a wildebeest to show you.
And a buffalo is not only not an antelope, it's also much, much, much bigger than something like a wildebeest, and also far more dangerous to people on foot. So I'm not at all scared of the wildebeest that we've been walking around, but I would be more worried about a buffalo if I were to encounter it. Harley, you want to know what the lifespan of a wildebeest is? Oof, I have to guess, Harley. If I had to guess, I'd say probably at the most around about 15 years in the wild, and that would be quite an old wildebeest. I don't think they'd get much older than that, but that is a guess. I don't know exactly what the oldest wildebeest is. You'll probably find that they could live much longer in captivity. Now, I mentioned that all of these wildebeest in front of me were females, but if we have a look over there, you can actually see there's the male at the back. And he's following along behind the females. And the reason that he's doing that is because it's nearly time for wildebeest to start mating. So what that means is that they have a special time of year, when the females are ready to mate with the males. And they do it all at the same time so that they have their babies at exactly the same time. So remember how I said that this herd had a whole load of little ones? Well, they were born all around the same time, around about the beginning of December. And that's one of the ways that they help to keep themselves safe. So if there's a hungry lion that comes through It might catch 1 or 2 baby wildebeest, but it won't catch all of them. And I can see some of them, they've gone this nice dark grey color of the adults. And sorry, Alex, you've asked a question, but I couldn't quite hear what Rebecca asked. It was something about what wildebeest have. Ah, there we go. Alex, you want to know what defense does a wildebeest have? Well, Alex, what you're looking at is one of the fastest antelopes of all of them that we get out here. And not just the fastest, it's actually one of the antelope that has some of the best stamina of all of them. So a wildebeest is kind of like a marathon runner. It can run and run and run and run very, very far. And if that doesn't work, then it can also kick, it can also use its horns, and that's one of the reasons why female wildebeest also have horns. So it's not just the male wildebeest that have horns, the females also do as well. And that's because they live out in the open, so they can't really hide away from the predators. They're not really camouflaged, are they? You can see them very, very clearly, but they have to have horns in order to be able to defend themselves as well. Now you can see that these wildebeest, you can see I'm not whispering or anything like that. I'm just watching them, and that's because they know I'm here, but they've got used to people walking around the camps. I think it's time to leave our wildebeest to snack peacefully. I think I heard an elephant somewhere in the distance. We're going to go and see what else we can find and send you back across to Brent and the wildebeest's much, much bigger, confusing ruminant cousin.
Well, we're still with this beautiful big herd of buffalo, and there's one having a really big scratch. Oh, has he finished scratching? No. So of course, there's lots of ticks and other ectoparasites that irritate the animals out here. So they don't have hands like us, so they can't pick them off. So when there's a convenient little tree, it becomes a good scratching post for buffalo. Yeah, look at you. Looks like you're really enjoying that. So you can hear a little and I'm trying to spot what's making that noise, but we can't see it at the moment. But there's some birds that live on buffalo called oxpeckers, and they also help remove those ticks. But Spencer's wondering, why do buffaloes live together in herds? Well, Spencer, safety in numbers is the answer. Well, there's a couple of things. If there's more of you, you've got a better chance of being able to fight off a lion. And secondly, if there's more of you, you've got less chance of being the lion that will going to be the lion's dinner. Now, Alexandra is wondering, what do the buffaloes eat? Now, they are what we call bulk grazers, Alexandra. So they're like mobile mowing units. So they eat grass. And they very importantly, which I'll show you just now. There we go. She's giving us the evil eye. There we go. Now, if we look in an area where buffalo have been through, here's a good spot. welcome back everyone. Sorry about that. We are live in the bush, so sometimes we do have a few little technical problems. So we were chatting about how big a buffalo's feet are, and let's have a look. There we go. There's a perfect example. Now we can have a look there where the buffalo has walked through its own dung. Now what that's done is those big hooves have dug into the soil. They've pushed the grass seeds down into the sand, and they've also added a bit of fertilizer. So, and buffalo are what we would call a keystone species. So they're a very important species in the ecosystem because they fertilize and help put the grass seeds deeper in the soil. Oh, there's another buffalo that looks like it's ready for a scratch on a tree. No, she's decided against it. Oh, it's quite nice to spend time with the buffalo herd. As I said, oh, there's an oxpecker right there. So there we go. That's the bird I was talking about a little bit earlier that makes lots of noise when you're around a big herd of buffalo. So they eat ticks off the buffalo, and not only do they do that, sometimes they can actually be a bit of a pain. What they do is they will actually keep scabs open, so almost like vampire birds. But it sounds like James has got another bird to show you.
These are very, very special birds, everybody. They're called weavers. And those are Mrs. Weaver. So 2 Mrs. Weavers. And then if we go just down from there, you can see Mr. Weaver. And you know what? Unlike us in the human species, Mr. Weaver is much better looking than Mrs. Weaver. You see that? See how bright and yellow he is? And look, he's got a red eye. Now that tells us or gives us a very good clue as to which weaver he is. We get lots of different kinds of weavers, and that one you can see has got a black mask, so he could be a masked weaver. But we get 2 different kinds of masked weaver, and the village weaver's also got a mask. So which one is he? Is he a village weaver? Is he a lesser masked weaver? Or is he a greater masked weaver or southern masked weaver? And what we look at there is the eye color, and we can see that his eye color is red. Now, if we then look at his back, has he got any spots on the back of his head? Well, he does a little bit have spots on the back of his head, but I think that he doesn't have spots on his back. And so he's not a village weaver, he is a masked or southern masked weaver. Isn't that nice? I think that's very cool. Now, I'll show you his little home. His home is just down below there. There we are. He's got 2 little homes there. And I suspect that he didn't build all of them. In fact, I suspect he probably only built one. And that would have been built either by his friends or maybe by him. Maybe he didn't use them. And what's interesting, everyone, is that he builds that nest all on his own. And he does it every single year. He must make a new nest. And you know what? When he wants to find a girlfriend or a wife, he builds that nest, and then he takes her around and he says, well, do you like my nest there? And normally what she says is, no, I don't like it very much at all. And then she tears it to pieces to show him that he's not very good at building nests. So then he has to start all over again. And eventually he'll make one that's good enough for the ladies to accept. And then, well, then he can find a wife. And eventually they'll make new little weavers. And you know what? In just a few short months, in fact probably a few short weeks, he will go from being that bright yellow lovely color to being as dull as the females are. In fact, you can see that starting to happen already. And that's because what happens is that as they go into the summer or winter time, they lose what we call their breeding plumage, and they become dull like the females. Now, Diane, you say, what do they weave? Well, just look at the bottom of your picture there. They weave those nests. Isn't that amazing? So he weaves all the long pieces of grass together to form that beautiful nest, which is safe from predators. It's warm inside for the little chicks. Aidan, you've just asked a very, very clever question. You say, why do the weaver birds build their nests in such thorny bushes? Well, Aidan, if you think about it, I don't know what kind of a neighborhood you live in, but out here, the neighborhood that these weavers live in is quite dangerous because there are lots of things that want to eat them. And one of the things that wants to eat them is snakes. And so if you build your nest hanging on the end of a bush that is very difficult for a snake to climb, for example, a very thorny bush, well, then it's a very safe place to live. So they build their nests on thorny bushes for security, and it stops things like genets and cats and snakes and various other things from getting up onto the bush and then into the nests. And if we go to the nest to the left of that, they're actually trying to get into it. Go to the... no, never mind. There we are. And you can hear them calling even now. Vzz, vzz. Just zoom out a little. And you can see the two birds sitting up above there. Vzz. That's a lovely call. It reminds me always of the summer. But of course, as you're going into summer, we are going into winter. Then there's a dove. Oh, the dove unfortunately has flown off. Never mind. I'm going to move a little bit closer to these weavers, because what they are doing is flying in and out of that nest. And I'd quite like you to see that. Oh, look at that. If we look at the edge of the water, there's a lizard. You see that lizard? Martin, do you see the lizard? It's at the end of the water, on the edge of the shore there. Yeah, to the left. There you are, you got him. Oh, look at that big lizard, everyone. That's called a water monitor lizard. And I tell you what, I think he's just had a nice meal. I think he's just eaten something. You see how fat his belly is? I think he's eaten something and now he's enjoying just lying there in the sun. Look at his long tongue. Isn't that amazing? See him sticking it out like that? Now, why do you think a lizard would do that? Why do they stick their tongues out like that? Let's see if he'll do it again. He's watching us. He can also hear another vehicle moving past, so he's watching that too. He's always constantly on the lookout for any danger. Let's watch his tongue. Let's see if he does it again, because I want you to notice the shape of his tongue. And for some reason he's decided he's not going to stick it out again. But the shape of his tongue is like a fork, so there are two ends to it. And I know this is going to sound very strange to you, but you know, a lizard smells with its tongue. Let me say that again. A lizard smells with its tongue. Now, you actually do a little bit of smelling with your tongue as well, and sometimes tasting with your nose. And it's a very similar kind of arrangement, where what the lizard does is stick its tongue out into the air. The air picks up what chemicals in the air that smell, and then it pushes them up through a gap in the top of its mouth, and somehow it manages to smell by doing that. It's a bit like you pushing your tongue all the way into your nose once you've stuck it outside, and then sort of smelling the end of it to see what's around. And that's much more sensitive than our noses. And look, just above it there, a gorgeous bird. That's called a laughing dove. Now, William, Victoria and Quinn, you want to know what a monitor eats. Well, a monitor basically will eat just about anything that it can get its little teeth into. Let's just have another look at that weaver. It's right close by now. And so they will eat small birds if they can catch them. They'll eat little things that come down to drink. Yes, they might eat some fish, but there are no fish in this tank, or in this pond. They will eat also eggs if they can get them. They'll eat snakes if they can catch them. They're very brave. They're not scared of snakes at all. And so they eat lots and lots of different things. Frogs probably as well. Maybe even crabs and that sort of thing. But they are meat eaters, and they will basically eat any meat that they can find. Isn't that nice? That's a very special sighting. And there the laughing dove, you can see, a bit nervous to come down to drink. Because look what's looking at him. Now, I think it would be unlikely that the water monitor could catch a dove like that, but it's not impossible. So I think that dove will have to be careful. And why it doesn't just choose another place to come and have a drink here, I don't know. See how he's looking at the lizard, thinking, that doesn't look too good. Now, Angel, I think you could probably answer this question on your own. You're looking at the lizard and saying, how does it camouflage itself? Well, look at its colors. See, it's got a little bit of yellow and gold, quite a lot of brown, a little bit of black, and the rest is a kind of dull yellow color. Now, if that lizard was to walk into the grass, it would become almost invisible, because it disguises itself by being the same color as its surroundings. That's the basic way that anything camouflages itself. It makes itself look exactly like its own surroundings. There you saw the tongue coming out. Naturally now, it's put it back in, I'm sure. Come on, do it again for us. Long tongue, about the size of its head. Oh, and a wasp. Did you see the wasp there? Now that wasp, look, it's so clever. It's gathering bricks, basically. It's making a nest out of mud. So it's picking up little bits and pieces of clay and mud, and it will use those to make a nest. And you know what? It's not very nice, because what it does is it builds the nest, and then it kills caterpillars and puts the caterpillars inside the mud nest, and then it lays its eggs in the caterpillars, and the caterpillars unfortunately die inside the nest as like a sort of prison. So it's not a very nice way for them to go. Let's head across to Brent. He is still with those enormous buffalo.
Enormous they are. Look at that. And what I do love about buffalo is all the different horn shapes and sizes. Now there we've got a female who looks like she's got almost a full bow on top of her head, and next to her is you can see all the different shapes, sizes, wide, skinny, big, thick. It is incredible how much diversity. Now it's got a little bit cooler since we started, and now they're starting to head out on the feed. So they do feed quite a lot. They'll have a siesta during the middle of the day, and they'll have a siesta during the evening. Now normally at this time of the year, buffalo will drink twice a day, once in the morning and once in the evening. Well, Horeb School would like to know, are buffalo horns permanent, or do they just fall off, or can they be broken or torn or broken during fighting? They are permanent horns, so unlike antlers, which are what deer have, that fall off, buffalo's horns are attached. So inside that hair layer, that keratin layer, there is a bone and blood vessels, so it can be broken and damaged and hurt during fighting. There's some quite pregnant ones in there as well. That one who's just walking away from us now, she looks to be quite pregnant. There we go, that one there. You can just see a slightly more rounded belly. And you see all their tails swishing to keep the flies away. And they are about to get on the move now, and they'll start foraging, and they'll forage very slowly, and as they move towards the next waterhole. Now Madeline is wondering, are there babies in this herd? Madeline, I think there are, but I think they're right in the center of the herd. Let's have a quick squiz around to see if we can spot any babies. I spotted one or two sub-adults, but no small babies yet. Buffalo will actually give birth throughout the year, so there's a younger one. Oh, it's being shy. Let's just keep going around a little bit. There we go. That one's probably about a year and a half, 2 years old. Let's see if there are any smaller ones. Giving us the very typical buffalo look down their noses at you. Hi, buffles. So normally the babies will be protected in a little group of females like that, so that's why when they're not moving it can be quite difficult to see. There could be a baby sleeping in the center of all those horns, not thorns. Layla's wondering, what is the lifespan of a buffalo? Well, in the wild, they only live generally to about 12 to 15 years is the maximum lifespan. They've been recorded living up to about 20 years in captivity, but out here, it's not a very long life. The lions normally get them first. There we go, Jack. I just answered your question for you. Yes, they are one of the lion's favorite foods. And specifically in this area, a lot of our lions are buffalo specialists. So they'll actively look for herds of buffalo to hunt. And they prefer hunting herds because there's often young and old and females and babies. So it's a bit easier than hunting just a group of old, tough bulls. Oh, there's a little argument going on up ahead. Let's go have a look. So there's constant sort of rivalry between the different buffalo in a herd. So you have your breeding males, like this guy lying right next to us here with his big boss. Yes, you. And he's got a little friend next to him. So that guy's not quite in his prime yet, but you can see the difference. So if we look at the one on the left first and we look in the middle of his horns, you can see it's not that hard yet. You can still see there's a bit of hair, so he's not a fully developed, mature male yet, but he will get there. So that hair will harden. Now, if we look there next to him, that is a fully developed, oh, not quite, but properly developed on the sides. You can see how hard the boss is, and that is basically a natural battering ram that he can batter his opponents when it comes to looking for ladies into submission. Now, there's always social dynamics happening here. It's just true. Oopsie. So, Jacob, Moheb and Chloe are wondering, am I afraid? Can the buffalo hurt me? In a herd like this, their first instinct is to flee away from us. So can't really hurt me here. But when they get old, the males leave the herds, and they are quite a big danger if you're on bushwalk, because they're a bit deaf and they like to sleep in thickets, and you can give them a surprise. Now, there is always a possibility that these animals can be potentially dangerous, but judging from their behavior, we've had no aggression towards us whatsoever. So no, I'm not worried that they're going to hurt me. Now, I think we're going to leave these buffaloes to carry on. We might try catch up with them a little bit later. I think they are heading towards a waterhole. But while we do that, it sounds like James has found some antelope.
Yes, we have some very, very special antelope, I think, because they are, well, pretty much our biggest antelope out here. And they are called kudu. You spell that. I don't know how good you are at spelling. I'm not very good at spelling, but maybe some of you are better than me. It's Kudu. Kudu. And often in the local languages out here in South Africa and many parts of the world, U is pronounced U. So it's kudu. And those are two female kudu, cows as we call them. If you go to the left there, Martin, you'll see the ones just come out into the sun. And that's a beautiful picture. And they probably weigh around about 300 pounds, so they're very big. You can see her coat is very healthy. She's shining in the sun, and it's one of the ways that we tell whether animals are healthy or not. We can see that the oils in the skin shine off them. John Paul, you're wondering what my favorite animal in the world to see is. Well, you know, John Paul, I think out here my favorite animal to see is probably a wild dog. But sometimes it depends on how I'm feeling. Some days I feel like seeing lions, other days I feel like seeing elephants, and then those enormous big elephants make me feel very happy. And some days I like to see things like this kudu. But most of the time it's wild dogs, which are sort of like our wolves that we get out here in Africa. They don't look like wolves, but they behave like wolves. They're beautiful dogs, about the size of an Alsatian or German Shepherd. They've got big round ears. They're black and brown and white. Very, really beautiful animals. And I like them, John Paul, because they look after each other, unlike so many animals out here. Now, Kenzie, you want to know about the stripes on the kudu and why they've got stripes. So we've had some very good questions today, and that's another one. Well, Kenzie, those stripes do what we call break up the outline. Now, I want you to watch her as she walks behind that bush. Can you see a little bit maybe how those stripes sort of make it a little bit more difficult to see her? Now, you must remember that their predators are normally active in the night time. So something like a lion, watching that kudu moving through the bushes at night, would find it quite difficult to see. And that would be because of the stripes. It makes it confusing to see, is it walking left or is it walking right, away from us or towards us? And so that's why we think those kudu have got those lovely white stripes on them. They've just had a quick drink of water and you can see them disappearing into the bush again. It's still very hot out here. And then when it cools down, they'll probably do a little bit more eating. And certainly, if I'm going to be very quiet now for the next 10 seconds. And what you can hear is that there's not a huge amount of sound going on, is there? That's because it's still hot, and it'll get much louder as it gets a bit later into the evening. Now, Daria, you're wondering if kudu are like deer. Well, yes, they are a little bit like deer. In fact, they're very similar to deer. They come from a different family, but they are similar to deer. Deer, of course, get antlers, and the kudu out here get horns. The males get horns. And, excuse me, the horns don't ever fall off the skull, whereas we know that deer's antlers do fall off and they grow back every season. The other thing, of course, you also want to know if kudu hunt. Well, Daria, no, kudu do not hunt. It's very, very, very easy to tell if an animal is a hunter or carnivore or a herbivore, and you can see that from the way they are. A carnivore will look like a dog or it will look like a cat. It'll have some kind of resemblance. They'll have big sharp teeth for biting things. They'll have much more supple legs like a dog or a cat. Whereas a herbivore, or something that eats grass or leaves or fruit, won't have that. They'll look much more like a horse or a cow. They'll be stiffer legged. They'll often be a lot bigger. And yeah, I mean, you just can't, once you've noticed the difference between the two, you'll never make that mistake again. So a kudu doesn't hunt anything except leaves. Delicious, isn't it? Good. Let's move on. Those kudu have moved on. And Bo, you're wondering about whether kudu are the lion's favorite food. No, not really. I think the lions, it depends where you are in the world as to which favorite food lions have. But in this area, the favorite food of our lions is quite often impala, which are our most common antelope. We see them quite a lot, and I think they probably get eaten the most. Also buffalo. So those buffalo you were watching with Brent, well, often the lions like to eat those buffalo. They find them very delicious. We're going to stick our heads up over the top of this area here and see if we can't spot something coming down to drink, because like I say, it is hot, but there's so much water everywhere because we've had lots of good rain. And so it's not very predictable where the animals are going to be. Oh, look at that! There's a hippopotamus. Now, Hagen, you're wondering about, just quickly before we answer any questions on the hippo, you're wondering about how the kudu defends itself against lions and that sort of thing. Well, Hagen, what it does is it runs away. They're very good at running. They're very fast. And the other thing that they do, of course, is they manage, because they stay in groups, to warn each other. So if they see a lion or they see a leopard or something like that, they make a loud bark. It sounds like this. Bow! Bow! And that tells all the other kudu in the area that there is danger and they must all run away. So there's a hippopotamus. And while we look at this hippopotamus, I think that Jamie's got something interesting to show you on Bushwalk.
I would indeed like to show you something. And what I'm actually looking at is just to bide a little bit of time before the elephants get here. We've just heard a report that the elephants were walking right up the road towards us, and we know that they're going to come and have a drink, so we decided we'd come and wait for them over here, and wait for them to come to the waterhole and maybe splash around, maybe have a bit of a swim and cool themselves down. But while we wait, I thought I'd keep myself entertained by looking for the homes of various creatures, and that's why we love being on bushwalk, because it's not just about the big things, it's also about the little things. And believe it or not, these funny little dots in the ground are actually made by a voracious type of anteater. So it's a type of insect called an ant lion. So it's called an ant lion because it's basically like a lion for ants. And what it does is it builds these deep conical pits. Sorry, I keep getting distracted by the bird that's calling. Black-crowned chagra. Anyway, so it builds these conical pits, and it basically, what it does is it makes a circle in the sand, and it hides in the bottom underneath the surface of the soil. And then, if you imagine that my hand is the side of the pit, when an ant comes crawling along, it starts to slip because the sand is so soft, and then it falls down into the pit, and when it gets to the bottom of the pit, the antlion's waiting there with these sharp, really strong jaws, and it goes gow, and grabs the ant and eats it. So those little pits are actually death traps for something like an ant. And you can usually tell if there's somebody living in them by just ever so gently knocking just a few bits of sand into the pit itself. And if there is an antlion living there, then it will start to flick the sand up and out of the pit itself, just to make sure that its pit stays nice and clean, and so that the ants will fall in and then it can eat them. Now, that is an antlion, and it's actually the baby of a particular type of insect that looks almost like a dragonfly. But it's only when the antlion baby has eaten enough ants that it will actually metamorphosize and turn into the adult antlion larvae. So that's just one of the things that we've been keeping ourselves distracted with. There's lots of birds, but I'm still waiting for these elephants. They're going to come here. It's the only water source near here, and Rexon, who is the person who comes on the walk with us and makes sure that we don't walk into anything big and scary by mistake while I'm talking to you, he actually saw the elephants coming up the road. So we're going to wait patiently because we've got such a perfect place, and we know how much elephants like swimming. There's another creature, though, that likes swimming, and James is with it now.
I like swimming as well, and I'm sure when it's hot where you guys are, you also like swimming. Let's take a look at our hippo. Oh, he just put his head under the water. Hippo are quite nervous, you see. I don't know why they're nervous, because of course they're very, very big, and so nothing can really hurt them. But I think they're nervous because, well, it's difficult if they're not in the water. Caleb, you're obviously very well informed. You say, is it true that hippo cannot swim? Look at that, isn't that wonderful? Caleb, the hippo cannot swim. No, that's absolutely true. But that doesn't mean that they drown. So although they can't float, they can, and they sink to the bottom. I don't know if you've ever been in a pool and you've jumped up, you've pushed yourself up towards the top of the surface and gone underwater again. They do that sort of thing. They just sink a bit more than we do. But they can also hold their breaths for a long time. And this hippo isn't actually swimming. He's standing on the bottom. And so often they will sleep or rest in areas like they are now, where they're able to just stand. There, he's put his head under. Now, Mahed, you say, why do why do hippos have sharp teeth? Mahed, they've got sharp teeth because that's how they defend themselves. They fight with each other quite a lot, especially the big bulls, and, well, they need to be able to defend themselves, and so that's why they have big teeth. And, of course, the mothers will use their big sharp teeth to defend their babies against lions and hyenas, because at night time, there he is, he's back out again. At night time, they move out of the water and they go off grazing. And that's a time when they're quite vulnerable, which means that it's a little bit easier for things like lions to attack them. So the babies would be very vulnerable in the night time, of course, because they're very small and the lions are much bigger than they are. That bird that you can hear calling is a beautiful bird called a woodland kingfisher, going chip. There you are. Isn't that nice? See if it does it again. And you know, that's one of our favourite calls of the summertime because it means that it's summertime. But you can hear they're not doing it much anymore. And normally they call like that all the time. And the reason they're not anymore is because they're about to go heading off into the north of Africa to be away from the winter time. So they're going to have summer twice in 1 year. Angel, you're wondering how fast a hippo can run. Well, a hippo can probably run at about 45 kilometers per hour, which in miles per hour is just about 30 miles an hour. So they're very quick. They're much faster than us. And I bet you won't believe me when I say this to you. But I don't know if you know that the fastest man alive at the moment is a chap called Usain Bolt. He's very fast. And I think that a hippopotamus would beat him over 100 meters. Isn't that amazing? So Usain Bolt can run the 100 meters on a good day in about 9.5 seconds. Well, this hippopotamus could probably run the 100 meters even faster than Usain Bolt. Isn't that amazing? It seems a bit ridiculous that such a huge, fat, blubbery animal could run the 100 meters so very, very fast. I think it's astounding. I'm going to carry on, or in fact we won't. Let's move away from the hippo and have a look there at some impala, because I was talking about the impala to you a little bit earlier. And while you think about those impala, let me just tell you, AJ and Joy, you say, I think, what do hippos eat? Is that correct? Oh, how much do they eat, and do they eat ants? They only eat, apparently, about 25 to 30 kilograms of food a day, which is about 66 pounds. Now, I know that sounds like a huge amount to you, but it's actually less than rhino, for example, which are the same size as hippo. And that's because a hippo, all it does all day is sit in the water, so it doesn't get very hungry. Those are impala that we saw at the other side there, and they will often hang around near the water because they like to drink water. They have to drink water. They can't run a great deal of distance to water like those wildebeest you saw earlier on with Jamie. So we've got a lovely peaceful scene going on here. Just lovely stuff. Right, we might try and see if we can't get slightly closer to those impala while you think about them, and give you a bit of a closer look. Madeline, are you wondering why animals hide in the grass when they are hunting? Well, Madeline, if I was a lion and I was trying to catch an impala, do you think that the impala would run away if it saw me? Would you run away from a lion if it was walking towards you and you could see it? Wouldn't you run away? Of course you'd run away. So the impala is the same. The impala and the kudu will run away from the lions and the leopards if they see them. So the lions and the leopards will hide in the grass so that they can stay away from their predators, from their prey, so that their prey do not see them coming. And I don't know if you've got cats at home, but next time you see your cat in the garden or outside, you watch how they move. They do the same thing. Especially if you have a cat that happens to like to catch birds. They hide in the grass to stay away from their predators seeing them. Alright, the very last thing I'm going to show you is something there called a crested francolin. There they are on the road. I hope you've had a wonderful time with us on safari, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day at school. We will see you next time.
And welcome welcome back to this portion of our live safari, the rest of the Sunset Safari, now that the kids at school have had to go back to the rest of their school day. My name is Jamie, and this afternoon we are waiting patiently at the waterhole just outside the Voyatella Lodge. Please don't fall down in the dam wall. We're waiting patiently at the waterhole because Rexon tells me that he saw some elephants walking straight towards us. Now, this would be such a perfect spot if they would just hurry up and get here. We're trying to work out. We think that maybe they've got distracted. Perhaps they stopped for a snack. Maybe they found some water elsewhere. Somehow, they don't seem to have reached us at the speed with which we expected them to. So now we're sneaking forward just to see whether or not they're coming down the road. We don't really want them to see us. We want them to not notice us at all. And we know on such a hot afternoon that they're most definitely going to want to go for a bit of a swim. And now it's just a question of waiting for them to do so. Now somewhere here, while I wait and know that Rex is going ahead to check, somewhere here was that baboon spider nest that Taylor found where she had her babies, but now I can't remember where it was. You think you'd never forget something like that? Well, since I seem to have lost all sign of the spiders, at least James has managed to find some other mammals for you. Let's go and have a look at what he's got.
Well, we found an animal for you. It's an impala. But that's not why we stopped here, because of course an impala is a fairly garden variety creature. And there we have a little warthog, a little piglet. And it has not been left in the care of the impala. It's got its siblings with it. And just behind the three little piglets is going to come the mother pig. Which of course reminds one of the great nursery rhyme, the little pigs and three little pigs and their trials and tribulations with the big bad wolf. Now, in case you're wondering, my name is James Henry. It's nice to have you with us. The schools have left us, so we can speak in slightly more adult tones. There I am. Hashtag Safari Live is how you get hold of us. Ooh, there's very bright light in my eyes. Hashtag Safari Live on Twitter is the best way to get hold of us. I'm sorry for the shadows that are moving in my eyes, but I don't wish to go blind today, if it's all the same to you. Let's go back towards those pigs over there. There they are. And they're probably going to wander down into the drainage, so I think we might just do the same. Try and get out of the sun. Well, they're thinking about it, but now they're thinking that they're a bit more intrigued by us. There we are. Oh, don't be such chickens. One of them doing a bit of show jumping there. It's quite nice to see. And goodness, you know, I've been away just for a week, and in that time, it's amazing how much more autumnal things have become. The birds have definitely ceased the summer chorus completely now. I'm surprised that these impala are feeling quite so sort of pleased with each other. As we know, of course, this is not their time to be friendly. This is when they will start to become very unfriendly with each other. Good. Well, I think our plan from here will probably be to head down towards, I thought we'd go towards Chitwa Dam actually, and so unless I hear that Brent is going to do the same thing, which will no doubt be relayed to me very shortly. In fact, I don't think I can take this car there. I don't think Wendy can go there at the moment, can she? Any ideas? I can go. Alright, let's go. Let's see if we can get down there. Jamie's sort of looking after the northern parts here. we'll head off towards Chitwa Dam and see what we can find there. Strong smell of waterbuck in the area. No sight of waterbuck, of course. And for those of you who would like to know, we were in India for the last week. We went to sort of see if it would be possible to do a safari live type thing from there. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, but certainly the wildlife we saw was spectacular. The people are very nice indeed, and so hopefully one day we will be able to bring you tigers, the great Indian one-horned rhinoceros, the Asiatic elephant, and various other fantastic Asian creatures. While I contemplate the vagaries of the African ecosystem, let us head across to Brent Leo Smith, who is currently at some water.
Well, we've got a key member of the African ecosystem right here, which is a little hedge to terrapins. And you can see who's been sunbathing the longest. And the guys who are nice and dark have just come out of the water, and the one right up at the top has obviously been lying there for quite some time. So we're at Red Dam, and of course this is one of Shadow's favorite areas, so we're just keeping quiet, we're listening here for a little bit, and there's a really wonderful little drainage system if you want to keep cubs up in that area. Of course, my name is Brent Leo Smith. I have Veerm on camera with me, and we're hoping to find some leopards this afternoon. But if we don't, it is a beautiful late summer's day. Oh, there's a little bird. What have we got bobbling down on the edge of that second spit? Let's have a look. Aha! A little sandpiper. Now, which one, do I wonder? I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to get you to tell me. Who can identify that little sandpiper bobbing around on the edge of the water there? If you know the answer, hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. Who knows what little sandpiper is that? Now, you want to look at the eye stripe and also at the colour of the legs and also the pattern on the body. And something we've got quite used to since we've had the late rains is the sound of monotonous larks everywhere. But no sign of any leopards. So I think we're going to keep moving. I think it's time to check down into the Marakeni River. See if maybe Shadow hasn't found a nice cool place to spend the heat of the day. Now, of course, we're always checking quite carefully for tracks. And the chorus grass at this time of the year is just so pretty with the light coming through it. Not great to be grazed upon, but very nice to look at. Okay. Now, I have found Shadow quite a few times in this area. So, fingers crossed that she's around today. This is also another favourite hangout of another favourite leopard of everyone's. Mr. Tingana. Ooh, is that tracks? Indeed. Shadow and cub tracks. Okay. I need to jump off the vehicle here quickly and just have a proper squiz to see where these go. While we do that, it sounds like Jamie's found something a lot bigger than a leopard.
Well, fingers crossed that Brent manages to find that tiny little leopard cub, but as he said, we have indeed managed to finally find something much, much bigger in the form of two beautiful elephant bulls that are on their way to come and have a drink and hopefully a swim, because how special would that be? One of them I'm trying to see, I think one of them's showing, no, it's not really too much must. As just he's secreting from his temporal glands. It's always important when you have the opportunity in this kind of a situation to just properly assess. First of all, not to assume that there are 2 elephant bulls, but also to see whether or not any of them are in a condition known as must. Now, at the moment, the wind is okay. It's touch and go. It's kind of blowing this way. I'm hoping it's not going to blow our scent towards them before they come and have a swim. And then, when they figure out where they're going to go from there, well then, I'll figure out where I'm going to go from here. Here we go. Come on, boys. Come and have a bit of a drink. I'm keeping my voice down a little bit. I'm obviously not shouting from the rooftops. There they go. Right down to the water's edge. And it's so interesting, you know. Obviously, Rexon is got some kind of ability to see into the future. Because he said to me at the start of this afternoon's bushwalk he wants to try and find a place where we can sit by the water and watch the elephants come and swim and drink. Senzo, if you come here a little bit and then just crouch down. Here we go. See, now they're coming straight into the water. Chasing each other, they're going to play in the water itself. Alright, Senzo, if you can crouch a little bit, just so that you don't disturb them in any way. Donna, you say it's so wonderful to see elephants on foot. It is, isn't it? It is one of the most amazing feelings in the world, and we're so privileged to have it, to share these moments with them. We're just keeping a close eye on them, making sure that they don't suddenly come and surprise us, but we've actually got the perfect position here. Exactly where. Come on, boy. There is actually no greater privilege than to spend time with giants on foot. There they go, into the water to have a drink. How cool is this? We've got a view of the elephants splashing about from one perspective on the opposite side of the waterhole. And then we've got our position right here on the top of the dam wall, watching them from one view to another. You can see them gathering up trunks full of the water that they want to drink, making me somewhat jealous after our rather rapid sprint away from that area. I don't want them to see me and stop drinking while they do. Now, Trevor, you want to know how many gallons of water an elephant can drink? I'm really sorry, I can't do gallons. I actually have no idea what the gallon conversion is. A big elephant bull like this, I rate, could easily consume 20 litres, 40 litres in one go if he's particularly 30. Let's go over to James, see what he's got.
Look at that, everyone. That is the green-backed heron, and it seems to have caught itself what I think is a junior catfish. Isn't that fantastic? It just caught it as we came through here.
Cool, huh?
It really is very special indeed. Now watch out, swallows the whole thing, which means that by the time it gets into the gullet of that creature, or the bird, it's still alive. No efforts to chew, down it goes, and there it is, kind of going through the neck, and eventually it'll keep swallowing. Eventually it'll make its way into the stomach. It's still stuck there in the neck. There we go, through the crop, and now a little bit of a drink of water to help wash down our fish. Now that must be a very satisfying meal for a bird that size. I imagine it'll do that green-backed heron, well, probably for a day or two. That fish must still be alive. It must still be there. Still moving around in there, helping to wash it down a bit with a bit of algae and water. This is very special. So we're here at Chitwadan. That's where this is taking place. The great action that is the green-backed heron's kill. And you may just be able to hear a buzzing now and then. It's the cuckoo wasp. All right, let's go back to those wonderful elephants. They're leaving the water.
The wonderful ellies that have decided to stop their swim and, in an interesting turn of affairs, come straight towards us. Oh, bad time to sneeze. Bad time to sneeze. It's okay, they didn't hear me. Sometimes you just can't stop it. And actually, they really just want to square up to each other. They've obviously, now that they've cooled down, there's plenty of energy left for playful shenanigans. You can see both of them frozen, sizing each other up. And now pushing up against each other. I was hoping they're going to do this inside the water. It's always fantastic to watch young bulls fight like that in the water. This is something that I think they get enjoyment out of. I don't know, there's some people that theorize that animals like this aren't really playing just for fun, but I think they are. Sometimes it gets a bit out of hand and turns a bit aggressive, but that's like teenage boys roughhousing with each other. And you can see the one at the back is much, much larger than the one in the front. He's older. He's got much larger tusks as well. And walking straight back towards Boyatela Lodge. Perfect. Away from us, so we don't have to move out of their way. That couldn't have been better if we'd tried. Thank you, elephants. And you can see everything in their body language perfectly relaxed, tails swaying, something that we've spoken about many times during elephant sightings. I'm just going to shift around, sorry. I'm going to duck around in front, because we can actually, now that they're slowly moving away, we can actually just move and stand and watch them for a bit. Rexon's had an idea. He's suggesting that we go and watch them from right across the dam wall. It's actually a very good idea, Rex. So while we navigate around, you can have a view from the dam camera. And actually, we've got a really, really stunning position here. I'm going to be very reluctant to do anything else this afternoon, just so you know. Oh, there's the bright glare. Phew. That afternoon sun is very bright off the water. An awesome perspective. Stopping to have more water to drink. Oh, I'm sorry, I was in the middle of answering a question about gallons and how much an elephant can drink. And I'm sorry, my gallon conversion is not particularly... Sorry, Trevor. My gallon conversion has never been one of my strong suits. That and miles, for some reason. Feet I can do. Pounds I can sort of do, roughly. Fahrenheit I could even do. And hello to Ben, who is 8 years old. Ben, I hope you've been having as much fun as we are having. Now, Ben, you want to know how long are elephants' trunks? Well, the amazing thing about an elephant's trunk is that it can actually make it shorter or longer, depending on how it's feeling at that particular moment. So an elephant's trunk is probably from right at the top to the tip, around about 1.5 meters normally. So 1.5 meters, that is, and I'll stand up again in a sec once these guys have moved on, 1.5 meters is just over 4 feet, but they can stretch and contract and stretch and contract it. Let's go back over to James, who's found a feathered friend to show you.
Look at this, everybody. It's a beautiful European roller, probably sitting only about 25 meters from us. And they can look so dull sometimes, but then when the light catches them nicely like this, oof, it's just beautiful. Stunning, stunning creature. And of course they too will be heading away from us at some time fairly soon. These birds actually occur in India, believe it or not. Not at this time of the year. And that, I mean, there are at least 3 or 4 different shades of blue there. And I just love the way that their colours sort of juxtapose with the sky. I suppose we're at the wrong angle for you to see that now, but... What a bird. Anyway, they will be looking for grasshoppers here. We're sitting on Chitwa, where they've done some quite extensive, shall we say, landscaping. In other words, they've mowed these clearings, and that will have, well, it will have killed a number of little insects, but that's okay, they'll all have been eaten. And also, it would have just made it that much easier for something like this roller to catch the grasshoppers that they like to eat. Just because it gives them the chance, of course, to see slightly better. What is that I can hear calling? Oh, you know what it is? Can you hear it, everyone? I think it's a Sabota lark. And I think that it's doing a whole lot of mimicking of other birds. I'll see if I can spot it. Oh, there goes the roller. Let me see if I can spot the lark, because we don't see the Sabota lark often. But they're one of the very best mimics that we have here. Tiny little thing with a white eye stripe. But I can't see it at the moment. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. Let us continue. I think we'll probably try and make it all the way to Cheetah Plains. I'm not sure we'll get there, but we'll see as we go along. I was rather hoping for an elephant or two on these clearings. I see none. It's actually a drongo. I'm looking at it. It's a drongo making that mimicking call. It was initially doing a chagra. Not very well. Alright, I believe that Brent Leo Smith has been quizzing you desperately about birds, and he now would like to give you the answer and put your fears and worries to rest.
Well, it seems like it must have been quite a difficult one. So well done to Feline and Janet, who are correct. It was indeed the wood sandpiper. Now, the two that are most easily to be confused with are the top two here. The wood sandpiper and the green sandpiper. Now, I said look at the color of the legs, and I said look at the eye stripe. So that wood sandpiper, a very distinct eye stripe and very yellow, dull yellow legs. Now, the green sandpiper, greenish legs, and also that eye stripe is not very, very distinct. So there we go. Whoopsie, there we go. Yeah, there we go. So a wood sandpiper. Now, we've been very slowly circling the area where we last had Shadow's tracks. So far, no tracks coming out. I'm quite convinced that she's in this block. Unfortunately, this block is quite big. So I'm just going to slowly loop down to where we had the last tracks, and then I might take a walk from there. just on the edge of the drainage. There's a couple of tiny little sort of ravines that would be ideal spots to stash a cub. Or well, who knows, maybe she's got a kill inside here. So we're just going very, very slowly. I'm also making sure I check up in all the nice marula trees just in case that she's got a kill up in the tree. There have been some elephants through here as well. It looks like quite a lot earlier today. So it's one of those important spots to check. And no sign. Oh, is there a sign? No, false alarm. Okay, we're going to keep sneaking through here, checking very carefully. While we do that, let's go back to Jamie and those pachyderms.
Well, the wonderful thing is that our pachyderms are still here. Sorry, being interrupted by crowned lapwings chasing each other around, making a terrible racket. Our pachyderms are still here. One is slowly but surely grazing his way towards one of the guest rooms at the Voyatela Lodge on Djuma. And then the other is actually slowly looping his way back towards us. And keeping an eye on him, making sure. As Rexon said, we're both expecting to see more elephants coming down to drink. I was hoping that we might see them swimming. These two young boys didn't seem to really want to get up to too much. Have a quick drink, have a sort of brief stroll through the waterhole, and then back to eating. Back to the very serious business of eating if you're an elephant. Let me just see where our other boy's gone. He was just here. Where have you gone, mister? I don't want him to sneak around. Hold on, Sensor, hold on. Let me just make sure that he's not just around the corner. No, he's not. Sorry. There he is. He's popping out there. Just wanted to make sure he hadn't ducked down into the dip or something like that. There he is. There's a perfect elephant sighting. I'm almost tempted to just sit here and wait for the rest of them to come. That's what I'm hoping is going to happen. That the rest of them are going to start making their way towards this waterhole. So the one thing about summer though, well, the end of summer, is that there are lots and lots and lots of water, or there is lots of water about. There's lots of puddles and lots of pans where the elephants could go and drink. But they do like to swim, which is why they like the larger waterholes as well. This has been a stunning sighting. Here we go. He's grabbing up soft bits of grass. And this is actually the perfect place for them to come and feed because the food is nice and soft. So all of the grass species that grow in these sorts of areas are very, very palatable. And I'm sorry, I keep needing to sneeze again. I don't know why, all of a sudden. And there's definitely something at Djuma at the moment, or the last few months, that's been making me sneeze every time I come here. Ooh. And you can see, those of you with keen eyes would have also have noticed that there's actually several antelope there as well. One male Nyala, and is that a female there as well? Looks like it. Yes, a couple of females. Careful, ladies. Look at him. His ears out, thinking about chasing the Nyala and then deciding that he actually can't be bothered. Whew. Sorry, I'm still trying to contain the sneeze that is threatening to explode at any moment. Lovely. Add to that all of the wildebeest that are still gathered around the Voyatella Dam. And you've got a very pretty picture indeed. There they all are. They're probably going to wander back onto quarantine. Sorry, I was still trying to battle my sneeze here. Oh, excuse me. I'm struggling with my sneeze. Oh, there we go. Okay, it seems to have gone away a little bit. I have a question about whether or not, or how, elephants and hippopotamus get along while we watch him. Oh, he was leaning up against the branch, having a bit of a rest. Still not getting the name. Sorry, Rebecca. And the question is about hippos and elephants. Oh, it's Geeky Beth again. I'm sorry, Geeky Beth. Now I've got your name. Sorry, Geeky Beth. I was struggling with that for a second. Geeky Beth, it's your question about hippos and elephants. They don't get on particularly well at all. And what usually ends up happening is that the elephants that go swimming tend to, if it's quite a small waterhole, they actually tend to terrorize the poor resident hippos to the point that the elephants make a game out of it as our elephant disappears. So they actually kind of chase the hippos around. And one of the sighting that springs to mind with an interaction between hippo and elephant was the hippos being chased by the elephants at Buffalo Pan on Cheetah Plains. And the hippos would duck under the water, and this one elephant bull just would not let it go. And I couldn't quite work out what he was doing, because initially he was diving under the water, and I realized he was searching for the hippo. But then he went up onto the surface, and he started charging at random places, but he couldn't quite work out where the hippo was. So he'd run towards one place and go prrr at the water's edge, but there'd be no hippo. So then he'd run around to the other side and go prrr at the water's edge, and it still wouldn't work. So then he started pushing trees into the dam to try and intimidate the hippo. And the hippo, of course, was under the water the whole time. And apparently that elephant's attention span didn't quite stretch to the 5-minute breath-holding period that the hippopotamus is limited to. It seems as though both of our Ellies have deserted us. Reese, while I sneeze away and struggle my way through, Reese, you want to know if elephants ever suffer from allergies in the same way that humans do. There's our Ellie. And the answer to that is, I don't think so. I have seen them get that waxy build-up around their eyes when there's lots of dust around, and I've seen them get runny trunks. So they've got quite a thick mucus lining around their nose or the inside of their trunk to protect it from dust and other things going up in there and infecting their sinuses, because as you can imagine, an elephant's sinus infection would be a very serious thing indeed. Nothing like a human being. It would be far, far worse. I'm just going to go shift because he's actually having a dust bath. So let's go and see if we can get a good view of him. Don't stop, boy. They often do that after they've had a swim. And just stop and throw clouds of dust over their wet skin. I think they love doing it. He's just going to keep moving. Okay, he's moved off. The impala sprinting along. Abigail, funnily enough, having watched the elephants in the water, yes, absolutely, elephants can swim. They actually swim really, really well. And I don't know if you've ever, presumably you haven't actually seen footage of them. They doggy paddle. They doggy paddle their way through deep water. And they use their trunks as snorkels. And it's one of the things about the specialities of their lungs, which is something that I only learned while working for Safari Live, which is the fact that the pleural edges are attached to directly to the rib cage. There's no pleural fluid in between. There's no pleural fluid in between the membranes, which is really cool because it means apparently it looks as though they can cope with high pressure in terms of expanding, inhaling and exhaling, which makes total sense if you think about a snorkel effect with their trunks sticking up above the water. So they do use their trunks as snorkels. Or in the case of this elephant, and I can just see clouds of dust going up over the sort of the tops of his shoulders. I could just see clouds of dust billowing up into the trees as he throws them over it. Trunks are amazing things, the way they pick up bits of sand, they toss it over their shoulders. They really are amazing. Pulling down a branch and then picking up a toothpick-sized branch as they go along. And I'm really sorry, I've been trying to put this off, but apparently Brent has vanished off the vehicle and James has lost signal, but I'm in desperate need of a tissue, and if I don't find one, I'm going to sneeze all over the place. I don't think we actually have one, which is most unfortunate. We have a first aid kit, which is going to mean rummaging through Rexon's backpack. Rex? Wait, I can figure this out. There must be a tree I can use. I don't really want to wipe my nose on a tree, though, because of pepper ticks. I know that sounds ridiculous, but it's not. And they're all thorny here. Okay, well, that definitely won't do as a tissue. That definitely won't do as a tissue. It's an acacia tree. Rex is telling us we can go and have a look. We can go and watch the elephant while I rummage through his backpack, if provided I can catch him. Oh, look at these elephant tracks here. Beautiful networks along the ground. Where's this Ellie? He should just be round this corner. He's moving off, unfortunately. That's marvellous news. Even better in my desperate search for tissue. Rex, do you have any tissues in that bag? Can you have a look for me, please? That would definitely help me. That would certainly save me a huge amount of bother, and certainly for you, because my microphone sits in my hat, a huge amount of sniffing. And now we all wait patiently and somewhat awkwardly as Rex looks for a tissue. What else can I find you whilst trying not to look at the camera? Scrub hair dung will do. Oh, good. How marvellous. The wonderful news is that James has made it to Cheetah Plains, so you don't have to watch me suffer any longer. I'm going to send you across to him.
I'm sure it's much better not watching Jamie suffer, racking with those sort of consumptive sneezes of hers. Hopefully, of course, as the season turns more to winter and less to the polliniferous summertime, well, it'll be a bit better. They're on the road. Can you see it, Martin? A female Coqui Franklin waits for this. I nearly said waits for the sun, but of course what I meant was waits for the evening. There it has disappeared into the grass, of course, hoping that we hadn't seen her, knowing that we had, and therefore looking a little bit ashamed about the whole affair. Now there's still the golden head sticking out. Can you see it there, Martin? That might be the male. Just sticking its head out. Keep going, just at the edge of the shadow. No, to the left. Yeah, if you brighten up the picture there, you'll have it. There we are. Gorgeous. Eating grass seeds. Now that, of course, is what Jamie mustn't be doing. She'll sneeze horribly if she tries to stick her face in amongst the grass seeds like that. And just about any Franklin, while this is probably the prettiest, any Franklin, when you look at their colours, if you look at their plumage closely, you'll notice the most amazing detail, and I think that they're some of the most beautiful feathers that there are out here. Yes, they're not quite the
iridescent blues and purples of the starlings or the greens of the parrots, but they're still very pretty indeed. Oh, Tony, you say, what male bird mating display impresses me the most? Well, out here, I think it cannot be anything but the red-crested corhan. The red-crested corhan, I don't know if we've ever got the mating display on camera. We've had the territorial display, which is the suicide display. But what the red-crested corhan does is it flicks this red crest up from underneath the back of its sort of head, and then it does this sort of elaborate ballet dance around the female who carries on feeding as if she doesn't notice this ridiculous display. So that is my favorite out here. But worldwide, and I've obviously never seen this live, but there's a bird in Australia called the bower bird, which builds itself a bower, which is like a sort of tunnel almost, in which it hides all sorts of things, including bits and pieces of human detritus that it finds, so clothes pegs, or in one case, you must have watched it on Planet Earth too, a sort of plastic red heart, and they fastidiously clean around and in their bower and construct this amazing thing of twigs, and then they dance for the females, and it is the most amazing thing to watch. So I'd say a bower bird, or some of those birds of paradise with their quite astonishing displays. Right, we're on cheetah plains. We've had some reports of Vutomi being in existence around here, and so we'll head off and see if we can't find some sign. Andrew said that he hasn't checked extensively here today, so we'll have a look and see if we can't find something on the clearings, or maybe at the waterholes. Nothing's been very thirsty today, despite the heat of the day, which is a bit strange, I feel. Reese, an interesting one. You increased or changed bird migration behavior. Reese, I think to attribute global warming to changes in bird migration just straight off the bat would be probably premature. Is it likely to? Not so much the temperature, but because it will almost certainly influence the distribution of rain, and therefore the distribution of seeds for seed-eating birds, or insects for the insect-eating birds. It will almost certainly affect the distribution of where birds migrate. Will it affect the times at which they migrate? I don't think hugely, because the seasons will remain the same. So it probably won't so much affect the times as the distributions of where those birds will go. And I can't think of anything in particular that I know of that has been sort of irrevocably changed by global warming, but I imagine there are some species that have absolutely had their sort of migratory patterns changed almost irrevocably by global warming. In South Africa, we think that climate change and global warming will result in a much wetter part of the world here. The central parts of the country and off to the west will become even drier than they are now, and so this will become hotter and wetter, and so it's quite likely that over the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years that this area will experience an inundation of birds that we don't necessarily normally associate with an area as dry as this, because this area could well become a bit wetter. And so that will bring in different birds, as it does in very wet years. We've seen the white-winged widows here, we've seen the red-collared widow here, and in wet years that's not unusual, but I suspect that might become more and more of the norm. But who knows? Who knows? Nice question, that. Mainly because it leaves a lot to discuss. Let's see if we can't get towards 3 in a row pan. Now, Craig, you're in the United Kingdom and wondering if we get parrots, and if we do, would I find you one? Well, Craig, I'm going to say no, we don't, so that I can relieve myself of the pressure of trying to find you one. That, of course, would be an unspeakable lie. We do, yes, absolutely get parrots here. We get the brown-headed parrot, whose picture I will show you. And of course the first thing you will notice about the brown-headed parrot is the fact that the most obvious feature is in fact its... Martin, what do you think the most obvious feature of the brown-headed parrot is?
Invisible to see.
No, that wouldn't be obvious. That would be the opposite of obvious. A brown-headed parrot has a very obvious... no, not coming? No inspiration coming to you? No, incorrect. Not a brown head, but in fact it's green back. There it is. So that is the brown-headed parrot. And then the other parrots we get here, this thing is called a rose-ringed parakeet. And interestingly, I've actually just seen it for the very first time in the wild. It is an Indian species. And so you find it at Kaziringa or in Bandhavgarh, where we were. And then down here, you've got the mayor's parrot, which is a gorgeous parrot, which you find in Botswana and Zimbabwe largely. And then, of course, the Rupel's parrot, possibly our most beautiful parrot, with its red eye, yellow shoulders, blue bottom, found in Namibia. And then the Cape parrot, which I feel is, well, maybe this one over here. This is slightly ugly, brother, should we say? It's not ugly, but it's not quite as obviously beautiful as the others. Right, from the Cape parrot, let's just go across to Brent Deersmith, who is nowhere near the Cape, and indeed it is not his favourite place.
Yes, not near the Cape at all. But of some good news, and you might hear some swishing behind me. That's Wiem beating pepper ticks off his legs. He just jumped down from the car while I was wandering around, and I managed to walk through the bush for about half a kilometre and not get a single pepper tick. Wiem walked 2 meters and became full of pepper ticks. But good news, I found really fresh tracks of Shadow and her cub. Now, they were in an area where we've got no vehicle signal, but they were heading north. So fingers crossed she's going to pop out somewhere around Parallel and the Sibambili cut line. So we're going to keep going very slowly. Now she could have popped out and headed straight west from where she was. So we parked down there, and we parked about over there, and I walked probably to about there in the riverbed, and there are literally tracks everywhere. That cub has run and played and been playing with her mom, had a drink, or his mom. I don't know if it's a male or female yet. I actually haven't seen this cub. Wiem, do you know? No. Does anyone know whether Shadow's remaining cub is a male or a female? I'd love to know. But so I'm confident they're here. Now, the one thing I might be a little bit worried about is that I might have very easily walked past the cub, especially if Shadow's left the cub. It would have just gone into a little hiding mode and just crawled up into a little ball. So we're just going to keep going very slowly. It is getting to that time of the day when even if Shadow has left the cub, we might find her patrolling, hunting. Okay. Remember, hashtag Safari Live on Twitter if you've got any questions for us. Wiem and I are currently looking for a female leopard and a tiny little cub, and we've had the footprints probably about 100 meters from me here, but heading directly sort of northeast, or actually more due north than northeast. So she could easily duck up to the west here, so that's why we're going very slowly along this road, making sure there are no tracks that evade us. And hopefully, if luck is on our side, Shadow will just step into the brilliant golden afternoon light with her cub just behind her. Well, leopards are not the only things that look magnificent in the afternoon light, so let's go see what is fluttered into Jamie's golden light.
Oh dear, I'm sorry about that. I suppose I could flap in the golden light for a while. But the butterfly is gone. I'm sorry about that. The butterfly has decided to fly away. As happens, it was a really beautiful acria, if that makes any kind of a difference to our day. We'll be happy to know that I've recovered from my allergy attack and found a tissue in the form of some wound packing gauze from the first aid kit. So needs will as needs must. And now we're trying to creep up on this elephant once again. He's just been so obliging. But to give you an idea of the size of the footprint of this animal, and I mean, he's not a massive old gentleman, but he's quite a big boy there. I can see him. He's not too far away. But just to give you an idea of the size, there's his track over here. And you can actually see where he's kind of dragged his toe a little bit as he's walked along. So he's still quite close to us, actually. I actually thought he'd moved a bit further away. But he's just on the other side of these impala. Now what we don't want to do in this situation is scare the impala and scare him as a result. So that's something that we want to avoid doing, and it's something you've got to be aware of. Not just the reaction of the animal that you're following, but the reaction of the animals around you. And sometimes you can spook one set of animals, particularly something as easily sort of scared as an impala, and all of a sudden you find yourself in a tricky situation because you've then scared something slightly larger. I think what we'll do, is we'll just go a little bit around like this. He's slowly making his way towards quarantine, which is the big open area outside of our camps. And that's what I'm aiming for, is to get a really, really nice view of him with the sunset. That's what I'm aiming for. That's what I think would be wonderful. Now I'm crouching down, the impala are going to think that I'm stalking them, which I also don't want to give them that idea, but let's go around here. And let's try and move slowly but surely into a slightly better position. So far he's been phenomenally tolerant of us. Hopefully he continues to be so. So while we sneak up on our elephant bull, let's go across and see whether James has had any luck on cheetah plains.
Well, it depends entirely on your definition of luck, I suppose. Have I found anything? No. But I have found the smell of grass turning cooler as the sun begins to set. And of course that is a wonderful scent. And one of the main reasons I live out here, especially at this time of the year as we go towards the autumn, the evenings tend to cool a little bit faster than they do, of course, at the height of summer, and that brings out a whole suite of delicious smells, and it gives one peace in a hectic world. And while I know that we don't talk about politics, of course, on Safari Live, as all of us know, various political machinations in our countries drive us alternatively deliriously happy and deliriously mad with anger. We've had a bit of the latter in our country of the last week, and so to be out in the wilderness again, smelling the loveliness of an unchanging natural world that, well, of course it changes, but it is consistent in its appeal to me and its kindness to all of us. And of course, while the politicians do it for themselves, as the old song goes, if I might paraphrase it, well, the wilderness does it for us. And that's what I'm enjoying, just driving through Cheetah Plains for right now. We're about to arrive at Cheetah Plains Pan, where if current sort of luck has to always to hold, there'll be absolutely nothing but the plains stretching out towards the east from there. Of course, the grass is still so long that you have only to be, well, anything smaller than an impala and you'll disappear within 3 feet of the road. Right, here we are. Anything there? Anything there? Will we be lucky? No. 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 Unnaturable, you agree with me, you say that's why we're all here. Yes, you see, I think that's exactly correct. Isn't the wilderness a wonderful escape from the circus we as human beings have created for ourselves to live in? There are some birds. We'll have a look and see what they are. Do you see the birds, Martin? Unfortunately, you will need a scanning electron microscope to see them at that focal distance. Yes, there we are. We've got some doves, very nice, laughing doves, and then what looks to be some Egyptian geese, I think. Is that what they are? It is indeed some Egyptian gooses. To the left-hand side of them, we have some crowned lapwings. And as I said, you can just feel the peace has descended entirely as the light turns from its, well, washed out yellow, I suppose, to much more burnished copper. Of course, gold would have been a much better word to use there, but I've used it too often. Now, Mohammed, you're wondering about migratory birds as well. We were talking about them a little earlier with regard to climate change. You want to know if any of them lay their eggs out here? Yes, most of them actually. Most of the birds that migrate here are what we call summer residents, which means they breed here. So I think all of the cuckoos, bar the European cuckoo, which obviously breeds in Europe, breeds here. The European roller doesn't breed here. What else? We got all of the eagles, except, well, no, not all the eagles. The steppe eagle doesn't breed here when it comes out, nor does the lesser spotted. All of the bee-eaters. Do the bee-eaters breed? No, they don't all. The European bee-eater doesn't breed here. The barn swallows don't breed here. They breed over in Europe in the Palearctic. I'm going to say about 60% of the birds that migrate here breed here and then not again when they go back to the Palearctic. Of course, many of the birds that we get here are intra-African migrants, which means they go north of us, and it's probably 50-50 of the intra-African migrants breed here and breed in North Africa, and then I'd say probably 60-40 of the rest would breed here. So 60% down. Because it's a more tropical area, I think you'll find that most of them, when they go to the north, it's just easier probably to breed in a tropical area than it is in a more temperate zone where things are much more temperate. That's not why it's called a temperate zone, but they are a bit more temperate. Good. Let's go left. Well, consulting detective, what a nice question you have, and especially as it's, well, there's a little bit of a trick in it, even though you didn't realize, I don't think. You said you've only ever seen Egyptian geese here. Are there any other kinds? I'm assuming you mean, sorry, I can't get round the corner. Any other kinds of geese? Consulting detective, there is only one kind of goose, true goose, that we get in Africa, and that's not it. It's actually a duck, the Egyptian goose. I'm not sure why it's called a goose, but it is. The only true goose we get here is something called a spur-winged goose, and yes, we do get them here from time to time. The last one I saw, however, it flew. It was fascinating sighting. It came flying in. I was sitting in Buffelshoek Dam, where I haven't found anything for the last, 5 or 6 months. It flew up over Buffelshoek Dam, did one loop. This is before it filled up, and it was a fairly unsightly mess. It did one loop, decided to hell with this, and disappeared east off into the Kruger. So yes, we do get the only goose that we get out here, which I think, if I'm not mistaken, is the spur-winged goose. We do find it from time to time, but not very often. They prefer slightly more permanent water, I think. I've just had a statement from Rebecca. Where it comes from, I'm not sure, but she said apparently some baboons raided an Egyptian goose nest in the Kruger recently. Thank you very much for that, Rebecca. Wonderful. Wonderful to know. Good stuff. Right. Jamie Patterson apparently is still knocking about the Juma Dam. She's still with those elephants, and she'd like to tell you a bit more about them.
Judging by Rebecca's tone when she was trying to link across to me. It sounds as though James is back on the job of entertaining everybody and keeping everybody thoroughly amused. So we've actually had a beautiful view of this male elephant. He hasn't made it out into the open yet, and fair enough, he's in no rush, and we are entirely on his schedule. Just patiently waiting. No, don't come this way, boy. Hey? Go that way. Go west. That would be ideal. And you can see he's almost completely dry after his swim. A little bit of wet around his eyes, but that's about it. He's got this slow and leisurely approach to things. Now, James mentioned that we were still with our elephants. We should probably clarify that we were only with one, although Rexon did try to make us both jump by saying the other one was behind us and not to run. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, he went, "There's the other one, don't run." But the other one's actually split away. The other one has split away from the rest of the group. Now let's go, I think, rather than going round in front of him, the impala are scaring each other, let's rather go a little bit further to the back. And not often I say this whilst walking, but while we reposition, let's go and find out what Brent is up to.
Well, we're still in search for Shadow and Shadow's cub. There's some very upset testiculars in this marula tree. Quite high up. You can just hear them. Where have they gone now? Ah, there we go. You can just see it hopping around in the dark there. That's a southern black tit, I think. I was trying to see, there might have been a snake in the tree. And it doesn't look like it. There we go. What you found, Vam? Oh, there we go. Vam's got a southern black tit that's feeding. Probably looking for spiders and caterpillars. So not the one who's making all the noise. Probably no snake. Probably just a paranoid sister killer. Because the southern black tit seems to be very relaxed with life. Now, hello, Shmama. Shmama, I know you've been chatting about migratory birds. I was wondering, do certain bird species follow rainfall? Well, pretty much all the migrants, that is what they follow. So once you have rainfall, you get explosions of insects or explosions of grass, depending on what you eat. And so your migratory eagles, the main reason they actually come to southern Africa is after the rains, specifically for the termite alates, the termite explosions, and as well as grasshoppers and other bugs and high protein insects. Also when the grass explodes, all the grass seeds explode, which also causes an explosion in small little rodents like bushveld gerbils, tiny fat mice and the like, which is obviously also very good food for them. Now I am convinced that Shadow is in here. It is one of the most difficult parts of Aberthusa, this top headwater of the Murricane, and I was hoping that she might have moved out as it's got a bit cooler. It is time to go hunting. It could definitely be worth, if we have no luck here today, getting stuck into that drainage line on foot tomorrow. Now, I had a Cedar Point. Cedar Point's wondering, does the hot weather make the big cats less active? Indeed it does. So when it's hot, the big cats have a problem getting rid of heat, so they rest longer. Although, now that we're ending our sort of height of summer, we're right at the end of summer now, the temperature drops in the evening far quicker. Ooh, quickly across to James, who's got a bird of prey.
Well, it's not flying away, so we don't have to be too quick about it. But what do you think it is? A great mystery, great mystery. Ah, it's a chicken. It isn't a chicken, I'm joking. No, I wouldn't say this was worth recording necessarily here, Martin. It's not doing an astounding array of different things. That everyone looks like a Wahlberg's eagle to me, but it is not pushing out its little crest. Is that as close in as you can get there? And can you just brighten it slightly? Let's just see if we can't. I mean, the only other thing it could be is a steppe eagle. It's not lesser spotted because the leg, no, it's definitely Wahlberg's. It's a Wahlberg's eagle. Oh, is it? So it's not a lesser spotted eagle because its legs are feathered thickly all the way to the base. They're not stove-piped or skinny jeans, as would probably be much more appropriate these days. Martin, you're from Cape Town. Do you wear skinny jeans? Oh, good. That's a relief. Eggsy, of course, is a fan of the skinny jean pant. That's got nothing to do with this bird. And then, if it was a tawny eagle, well, then it would have a much darker back and lighter front. But a Wahlberg's has normally got that little crest sticking up from the back. So maybe it's just a smallish steppe eagle. Maybe I'm misguessing its size. No, it can't be a steppe eagle, man. It's too small. Does its gape extend beyond the back of its eye? I think it does. So the gape, of course, are basically its yellow lips, if you like. And do they extend more than halfway behind its eye? That would make it a steppe eagle immediately. Yeah, I think it does. I'm going to go with steppe eagle, everyone. I'm more than happy to take criticism on that because it looks too small to me, but I don't think it's a Wahlberg's. And if it is a steppe eagle, it'll be just about to go home. Steppe eagle, of course, a fearsomely large eagle, but is not, in fact, a very terrifying eagle in that it is an eater largely of termites, which I've always found quite interesting. Anybody else have anything to say about whether or not that could or couldn't be a steppe eagle or a Wahlberg's eagle? Let me go know. #Safari Live. Now, some of you said a tawny eagle. I really don't think it is. I'm prepared to go around it and have a look. If you look at a tawny eagle from the back, its wings on its shoulders here are normally darker than the front, quite a lot darker. And unless that is a very dark form tawny, I just don't think it is. Also, if you look at its back, there'll be a distinctive V. So there's a little road here. We'll do a little turn around there and see if we can't have a look at it from the back. A couple of impala and wildebeest around this area. None of them looking like they're about to be savaged by predators. There, let's have a look at it again now. I mean, I must say its wings now do look darker behind than they are on front. Oh, gosh. This is a bit embarrassing. I would have thought by now the brown eagles were completely obviously easy to me. Yeah, it could be a dark form tawny. A tawny is just over 2 feet tall. A steppe eagle, well, another 3 inches taller than that. Gosh, I don't know. I think I'm going to go with steppe eagle, chaps.
No, Bobby, it's definitely not a kite, and we know that because it's got feathers all the way down to the bottom of its feet. So its legs are covered in feathers, which immediately makes it an eagle. I'm going to go with steppe eagle. And then we're going to move on before we get any closer and before I can contradict myself again. Now, James, you're wondering why the tips of many raptors' beaks are black or dark in colour. I don't know. I'm not sure why. I think that's the natural colour of the keratin. So I think it'd probably be a better question to ask why it is that any of them are yellow. What's the advantage to them being yellow? Because the yellow would be an expensive pigment to... they have to colour it, so it'd be an expensive pigment to produce. And why would they produce it that colour? And maybe it's got something to do with attracting mates, but you see then, of course, as the problem goes with our roller, we don't know why they're all that colour, male and female. There is a wildebeest lurking in the grass. It really is gorgeous out here today. It is so golden, as Rebecca says. That thankfully is something useful, she's told me, unlike her last effort. I mean, that really is very pretty, isn't it? Rebecca, would you like to try again? Would you like to give me another fact? No. Rebecca's next fact, everybody, is that wildebeests are cool. I think we should get Rebecca to present one day. I think that'd be wonderfully fun. What do you think, Rebecca? Do you think you should present one day? Gorgeous. Alrighty, let's carry on into the clearings. We're not far from the clearings now. Ooh, hang on. We've shown this to you before, but if you are keeping a bird list and you don't watch every single show, that's quite interesting. There's a lesser grey shrike sitting on that stump over there. There you go. Beautiful. That is the lesser grey shrike. Why it is lesser than the greater one, well, who knows? I don't. You can just see them catching some rays there, enjoying the sights of the sun going down. He's going to come back to the same perch. No, he's not. He's going to fly past it and to another perch. Let's continue. All right there. Yep. On we go. Now, I believe Brent Leo Smith is manfully still soldiering away on Arethusa. What he's managed to find, I don't know, but I'm sure he'll tell you now.
Well, we're still looking for that female leopard. No sign of her just yet. So we're hoping that she's going to pop out of the drainage line shortly. So the last tracks I said were just in here. And this is one of her favorite areas. Now we've got decisions to make. Do we do one more loop? Why don't you guys let me know? Should we do one more loop to try find Shadow and Cub? Or should we abandon and go check Gowrie Main for little Shongile? You let me know. What do you want us to do? Use the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. You let me know. Shongile or Shadow and Cub. Now, those tracks we found in here were definitely from today, during the day. The cub had been running up and down and playing. And we even found where it had a drink at a little mud wallow. Now, the area we've been circling is probably about 100 hectares, 75 hectares. So just over 200 acres. and we're pretty sure she's in there somewhere. And oh, there we go. Now there's some of the animals that might help us find the leopards. A crested francolin, and they give a very stern alarm call, especially when there's a leopard cub around, because they like to stalk and try catch little crested francolins. And you can see the adults on the right, and she's done quite well. She's got, what, 4 or 5 little ones she's managed to successfully raise there. Look at that. Proud mom keeping a lookout, making sure there's no dangerous creatures about. Okay. So I'll show you the spot where Shadow and her cub had a drink a bit earlier today. Here we go. So the cub drank at that mud wallow there. So the little leopard tracks, couldn't we see them from here? They're a bit too far. Oh, it's a bit too far, but there are little cub tracks along that mud there, and she had a drink right there. So she's here somewhere. Well, if Shadow isn't, the cub is definitely. Now David's wondering, how many grandchildren does Karula have? Well, we're gonna have to do this. So let's start at the beginning, which is Shadow. Oh no, Shadow's a daughter. Oh dear, grandchildren. Oh goodness gracious. Okay, I'm gonna keep driving while I think about that. Well, let's start Sindile, definitely. Bahuti, well done, Vim. Kuchava, that's 3. Now, of course, we can only count the females cubs, because the male cubs, it's without genetic testing, it's impossible. Oh, what was that? Did I hear an upset go away bird? Wait, squirrel? It's a squirrel alarming up ahead, and I mean, we know the leopards are around here, so that's definitely something we want to follow up quite quickly on. But so definitely that we know of is Sindile, Kuchava, and Bahuti. Only 3 grandkids. Of course, most of. Oh, Tumba! Well done, Fiam. There's another one. Tumba. Okay, let's just hang on a second. I think that squirrel was around here. Indeed. Now let's just try pinpoint where the squirrel is. So just in here. Checking very carefully on the ground. Now, of course, it could be alarm calling it a bird of prey, it could be alarm calling it a slender mongoose, but with such fresh leopard tracks in the area, it's not something we can ignore. Where have you gone, squirrel? Okay, there's a big dead, what was it, a knobthorn there. That's an ideal squirrel hidey hole, and it sounds like the squirrel's on the other side of that. Now we want to try to see where the squirrel's looking at, or whether the squirrel is just having an argument with the other squirrels. Now Now, one of the other problems is that a squirrel with that height might have seen something 50, 100 meters away. It's gone quiet now. But this is the time of the day when the cats are going to start moving. The sun's just setting below the horizon. Now, quite a funny story. For those of you who've been on an African safari, at this time of the day, generally your safari guide will be looking for a nice spot to stop. Have a gin and tonic, just enjoy, relax. Now, the original reason that started was nothing to do with giving your guests a break or whatnot. It's specifically in the Sabi Sands, because the first place to really off-road night drive was the Sabi Sands. And in those days, it was just on the end of where lions and leopards were hunted in this area, so they were still quite nervous. But this is the time of the day when they start moving, so the impala start spotting them, start alarm calling, or the lions might start calling, but they just start moving, so there's alarm calls and things happening. So what would happen is the safari guide would set up a gin and tonic drink stop for his guests. His tracker would wander off normally about 50 or 60 meters away and just sit and listen to the bush. And that was how they initially really started finding the big cats in this area. But I think the squirrel sent us on a wild goose chase. Wild leopard chase, yes. Now that it's sort of the moment when you sort of want, they're sending us on a wild goose chase, and then you just want them to sort of walk in over shoulder without you being able to see them. But we can always wish. It seems like everyone has voted that we go have a look for Shongile and abandon our search for shadow and cub. So we shall do that. But while we make our way to that area, let's go to James, who's trying to eat noodles in the Far East.
I would very much hope that something will come out to play now that the sun has gone down, because there has not been a great deal of activity over here at all. Anyway, so be it. There it is. We're on our way back towards 3 in a row Pan, and then we're going to head back towards Djuma for the last part of the drive. Now, I'm not sure whether the cats will come out or not, but what I will say is that at this time of year, of course, once the sun does dip below the horizon, the temperature change is quite profound, in that it gets much cooler, I mean. And I'm sure most of you who are experiencing what must be spring almost, you're pretty much in spring now, must be most relieved that the winter is now over. No, nothing here at 3 in a row Pans. Just the 3 pans that are unsurprisingly, let's see if Martin can get this one, the 3 pans that are in a row. 3 in a row Pans, you see. Good. There we go. Well done. Okay. How are your comms? Are you getting them? Not. Okay. Poor old Martin is not getting any communications from Rebecca, which of course, given the standard of the factoids she's delivered to us today, is probably a merciful release. Oh, those birds have flown away. Now we're going back also into the area where supposedly Vitomi was last seen, but in this grass, as I say, not easy. We'll try and get you a last view of the horizon before the sun is completely gone, but I think we might be a little bit low down. There you are, just very quickly. You see it there at all? Almost. That's where it went, everyone. It's gone. Again. The western horizon, a burnished l'orange. And we'll just be quiet for 20 seconds and listen to the night starting to build.
It is so very quiet indeed. Far fewer birds calling than even a week ago. And also, of course, as I listened to Martin slapping his head, I think far fewer flies than there have been. Yeah, I must say there's a real peace about today. It's precisely the time of the day to be sitting by a waterhole with your very nearest and dearest close to you, sipping on a fine tipple, or whatever that might be for you. Alrighty, on we go. Vroom, vroom. I'll be interested to know, of course, how much time we have in the dark. It still looks like we're going to have about half an hour. What was that, Rebecca? Oh, a bird. I see. Rebecca is just talking to me in my ear about various things that need not concern you. I'm not convinced they need concern me either, but you know, that's just the way she seems to be today. I'm, of course, going to be in untold amounts of trouble when I get home now. Now, this is where Andrew told me that Elvis said that his physiotherapist's dog's vet's friend's daughter said that she had heard Vitomi could maybe have been around here at some stage. Oh, I believe that Jamie hasn't left us yet. I thought she'd closed down. We're going to head back to her so that she might bid you sayonara.
I haven't left you yet, I promise. We are still here, still alive and well. I'm not sure whether James meant we've just returned because it's getting dark, and it is quite dark, or if perhaps we'd been squashed by the elephant. I'm not sure where he was going with that thought. And sorry, let's just have a look at this. Come a little bit this way and watch this wildebeest do his preparations. I'm hoping he's not going to stop now. Watch this wildy. There we go. Oh, hopefully he's going to continue. So as it starts to get dark now, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a moment. But once it starts to get dark, all of the wildebeest are moving out into the open area. And I just wanted to show you, look what he's doing. Can you see him there? Yes. Look, he's scent marking. And at this particular time of year, it is particularly important for him to do so, because of course he doesn't have a harem. He wants to keep this harem here, so he's making sure that his territory smells very, very strongly of him. Rubbing up against the tree, he's got pre-orbital glands with very strong scents attached to them. It's such a strong scent actually that you can smell it as a human being. If I were to walk up to that tree now, and I'm not going to because it's in the opposite direction to the one I want to go in, but if you were to walk up to that tree now, you would smell a very goaty smell, like a mixture between a goat and a horse. That's the kind of smell that pre-orbital gland leaves behind up against the tree. It's actually quite a nice smell. And he's been scraping his feet and getting all ready for bed, making sure all the ladies know that this is his area. Now, Alexander, you want to know if wildebeest are closely related to horse or to the cow? Closer to the cow, I would assume. And the reason that I say that about the wildebeest is just simply because they're ruminants rather than hindgut fermenters or gut fermenters. So things like zebra are hindgut fermenters and are more closely related to the horse. They're part of the Equidae family. There he goes. Look, there he's scraping his feet. The pedal glands in between the two halves of his hooves. And that gives us another distinction between cows, horses, and antelope. Horses are odd-toed ungulates. So, in other words, they only have one toe. The other odd-toed ungulate that we get out here is a rhinoceros with 3 toes. But an antelope and a cow are both even-toed ungulates with 4 toes. The other even-toed ungulate being the hippopotamus with 4. Sorry, not the antelope have 2, cows have 2, hippo have 4. I'm thinking ahead of myself. My brain's moving too fast for me. So there you go. They're probably more closely related to cows than they are to horses. And even then, they're not particularly closely related to cows. Not even buffalo are all that closely related to domestic cattle. And of all of those animals that I've just mentioned, I guess probably the zebra and the horse would be the closest related. Oh, he's having a great time. Jackie J, you want to know what is the average size of your adult male wildebeest's territory? Funnily enough, it depends very much upon where the territory is, even more so than some of the animals like leopards or lions, for example. The territories that are the best, close to water, lots of good grass, a good place to have a territory, they're going to be much, much smaller. And you're probably looking at, if off the top of my head, if I think about this area, he's probably got a territory of around about 100 hectares. So 100 football fields, maybe a bit more. But those will get smaller and smaller because the competition is fiercer for better territories, because better territories mean a better chance for the females being around when it comes time for mating season. And then as you move into the outskirts or places where the resources aren't as good, then you get a situation where the territories are slightly larger. So there's a great degree of variance with territories of blue wildebeest in this area. And of course they're territorial here, whereas in certain other parts of Africa they're not particularly territorial. So it is very much a circumstantial situation. And just as it starts to get dark, and it is getting quite dark, our elephant is all the way on the other side of quarantine. There he goes. Debbie, you want to know if the herd were to be attacked, would the male try to protect his harem? It's a good question. Probably not, more so than is just a natural protective herd instinct. I've seen wildebeest chase away wild dogs before, gathering together in a group, and I've seen a male included in that group. So I guess that's one example of them attacking back. But if it's something like a lion, no, probably not. And even leopard attacks on calves, it's relatively unusual for the male to come and defend in the same way that a male stallion does. So a zebra stallion, they tend to be very aggressive in defending their harem. But remember, it's their harem. Whereas with the blue wildebeest, they have a mating season. The females come into the territory of the male. He might mate with them, he might not. And he's not necessarily as invested in those offspring as a male zebra is. So he's not as likely to be as defensive. Whereas the females will actually band together and try and protect the young calves. I wanted to show you one more thing, just quickly. Here's the moon. And while we have a look at the glorious moon, Steve Haskell, it is lovely to hear from you. Now, Steve is a new viewer, and Steve would very much like to know how he could go about asking questions and whether or not we'll answer them. We'll do our best to answer them, Steve. Obviously, we get lots and lots of questions, and we don't always get around to them, but if you ask us a question about what it is we're talking about or something related to what we're seeing, then you are almost guaranteed of an answer. And if you don't get one, just keep trying. And you can do that by hashtagging Safari Live on Twitter. So if you are unfamiliar with Twitter, as I know some people are, and forgive me, I'm not being patronizing, that means that in your tweet, after you've finished asking your question, you put a hashtag and then you write the word Safari Live, all one word. And then we will see it, and then we shall answer it. When the lady's in final control, it goes through quite a process, you know. First of all, it's got to go through the World Wide Web. Then it's got to be fed through into the computer and then passed from direct to 2 to direct to 1, and then it's got to be fed into my ear. So it's quite the process to get your question across here, but absolutely we will answer it. On that note, it is now actually getting really dark, and really was time for us to be home and inside and safely tucked away indoors about 5 or 10 minutes ago. So it's time for us to say goodbye. Very, very well done, Senzo. Excellent job. And thank you to all of you for joining us. I'm going to give you into the capable hands of Brent and James for the final moments of your sunset safari. Bye-bye, everybody.
So we're back on Djuma on the dusty highway known as Gowrie Main, hoping for a sight of Little Shongile. So we're going to head down here quite slowly. Now that big herd of buffalo we saw earlier, apparently they meandered this way and crossed into Hoffman's here. But ooh, I see cars that have stopped. What have you seen, vehicles? Let me find out from them on the radio. I think it could be the buffalo, I'm not sure. But it looks like that. No, it is the buffalo. Okay, hello buffs. Or stragglers from the herd. No, the herd hasn't even left Djuma yet. They're still meandering around on the Djuma side of the road. Oh, why are you guys running? I think they're just having a bit of a silly 5 minutes as it gets cool. Now, they're going to rest up shortly. So they've had a drink somewhere, but they will find a nice spot where they're going to rest up for the evening, chew the cud, and hopefully, for their sakes, avoid the lions. You can see a lot more active than they were earlier. I do love it when a buffalo looks down its nose at you. The old adage that looking at you like you owe them money. Let's just go a little bit forward. Okay. So they should be on the fire break. Oh, big termite mound. Oh, I love that smell. Hello, dusty flows. Look at that. Look at all the dust coming off them. Now, to be a buffalo during the dry season in Africa, you spend your life in the dust. And I can just hear all the little sounds. Little grunts, and there we go, there's a big grunt. That rubbing of, knocking of horns together. VM incoming. There comes a big bull. It looks like they might be having a little argument. I heard them running towards us. It looks like all bulls in this little group, all big bulls. Maybe there was a female estrus down there. Here we go. There's some more coming in here. There's a few females coming in now. Tim, I couldn't agree with you more. Their faces are truly priceless. Let me try to get the water. There's some running in quite quickly from down there. Daniel, a man after my own heart. Hopefully with this many buffalo, it means the lions are going to come back tonight. We can only hope, Daniel, we can only hope. So many noises. Brr. Oh, a little drop of the head there, reminding one of the younger boys who's the boss. He might not have the biggest horns, but you can see they are properly well-developed bosses on him. Okay, so we've spent a lot of time with these buffalo. There are quite a few people trying to get here before it gets dark, so we bumped into them by accident. I didn't realize they were here, so we're gonna go around them and continue our search for a little shongile. Well, there's that big termite mound again. Let's go a little bit. So there are 2 cars here. So we'll make space for someone else. I just want to ask Andries quickly whether they found shongile this morning. There we go. Sorry? Loot. Not for 3 weeks. Last in Konzo for Shadow and Mampimpa in the Marakene, but maybe 500 meters north of Red Dam, between Parallel and the cut line there. And they were nice in Konzo. Did anyone find that little Wansati? How far inside? Where? Kashan. She was eating terrapins yesterday. Enjoy. Cheers, guys. Thanks very much. Okay, well, there we go. The update on shongile is that we probably should have stayed looking for Shadow. She is about 3.5-4 kilometers inside Little Gowrie this afternoon at the Little Gowrie camp. So she is enjoying time there, maybe looking for her mom. Roy was just asking me if we had seen any sign of Karula, and we haven't either. There's Sean. Hello, Uncle Sean. Nice to see you. It was very good. And thanks very much. So Sean is asking how he went to leave. He's just jealous. He didn't get to go to the Pixies concert like I did. I did go see the Pixies. Yes, it was very good.
Hello, BM.
I just heard shongile down Little Gowrie Kaya. Okay. Yeah, she was eating terrapins yesterday. No idea. I'm going to go try find her now.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Konzo for the young Madonna as well is in British cover.
Okay, awesome. And then really nice tracks of Shadow and Mampimpa in the Shkova above Red Dam, but quite far, like 500 meters, closer to Parallel side. Yeah, I walked there this afternoon. Cheers. Okay, bye everyone. Sorry about that. It's just a major traffic jam around here this evening, but we're... Hi Mohammed. Mohammed's wondering what are the meanings of the names of the 2 leopards, Shongile and Hosanna. Shongile means exquisitely beautiful, and Hosanna means little prince or little chief. So that's their names, and that's what they mean. And they were named by Taxon and Aubrey of Djuma. So everyone's getting quite worried about Karula. I'm not too worried yet. I just think she's off looking for some lovin'. And there's always the possibility that she's moved into that sort of vacuum that's been left by Shaluva after she was killed by Tingana. Now look at that. Another tough day in the office for all of us here at Safari Live. An exquisite sunset. You can see some of the lights of the towns on the edge of the Drakensberg. Is that Maripskorp we're looking at, Vim? Is that Maripskorp? It must be. Yes, we're trying to just have a look if that's the tower where we get send the feed out through. There's Maripskorp. Oh, there we go. There's our tower. So our tower is the tall one, and our antenna sits about 3/4 of the way up there. Now, I've actually been up to the top there. It's very beautiful. Very good bird watching up there. Cloud cisticulars, black-fronted the bush shrikes. But it seems like James also has a spectacular view to share with you.
Well, it's spectacular-ish, I think. Now, of course, I've tried to recreate that on a photograph, but old Martin is doing a far better job than I. Other than the unfortunateness that is that beastly power line, those crepuscular rays are just quite astounding, aren't they? And obviously they've sunk behind the sun has sunk behind the various peaks of the Drakensberg, or some clouds, and that in turn has filtered the light out in these quite amazing rays. Now, many of you, of course, might be looking at that thinking that those rays are not in fact parallel to each other, which would be the case if it weren't for the fact that the sun was so very far away, but they are parallel. And although they don't look parallel, it's the same as when you look at if you stand on a train track and you watch the two lines of the train converging in the distance. So it's the same up here. And those two lines are completely parallel with each other because of the distance the sun is from whatever it is that's filtering the light into those rays. So I believe some members of the, I'm going to say, crackpot societies such as the Flat Earth Society and those that believe that there is some great conspiracy that the sun is much closer to us than it would seem to be, and that actually it is the sun that is rotating around us. Well, one of their arguments is that, of course, when you look at a crepuscular ray like that, you can see that the rays are not parallel with each other, and the only way that could be the case would be if the light was very close to whatever was filtering it. Well, if you ever read that or hear that conspiracy theory, now you can say, no, but I've heard and I know. That's absolute nonsense. Right, there seems to be a vehicle behind us driven by a man with a very bushy moustache. Let us continue. I too was rather like Brent, was hoping for some sign of the royal family. Haven't seen any of them for some time now. Was Karula seen in the last week at all? I think she was, wasn't she? I hope so. If not, that will have been a rather long time without having seen her. It's a gorgeous evening. And of course, thankfully, we have infrared lights because Wendy's headlights are, well, not very impressive, really. I suppose I should get the spotlight out now. As you all know, I'm really good with the spotlight. Oh. That's not good. Hang on a second. Were it not for the man with his bushy moustache, I'd stop. Oh. That's most unfortunate. I think our globe has blown. It's really not very good. Oh well. We'll continue with the aid of the other lights. We do, of course, have infrared as well.
Alright, Brent seems to have a working spotlight. I'll see if I can fix this one. In the meantime, go and enjoy the lighthouse that is Brent Leo Smith.
Well, what has James done? He's got back. I'm sure that spotlight was working yesterday, but I do have a working spotlight. We also have set up our infrared rig, so which means we're gonna have a gander at the hyena den to see if Ribbon and her two little monsters are out and about. It is definitely one of my favorite times of the year as we move from summer to winter, and I'm watching all the trees carefully for the ones that are about to change. So what Steph is wondering, are Hosanna and Shongile independent now? They could be. It's difficult to say. Kruder's been gone for 3 weeks that we know of, and they might be independent already, they might not. And unfortunately, we're only going to be able to answer that for sure in the next little while, so in the next month or so. So it's unusual for young males to go independent at that age, but not for young females. So we'll have to wait and see is the answer, and if I had to try say anything else, I would be guessing, and we don't do that. It is a magnificent evening. Now hopefully those lions might pop out on the dam cam, so please keep a lookout for me. That would be quite wonderful. We might find a bush baby or a chameleon on our way to the hyena den. And it's actually a really nice temperature at the moment. It's not too hot, not too cold. And of course, the cooler weather is coming. Well, let's go across to James with an oddly coloured animal.
Oddly coloured animal. I'm not sure quite how oddly coloured it is. Oh, it's a green hippopotamus, I see, yes. Well, that is, of course, because Martin has engaged the infrared lighting, which in turn I was hoping would inspire this hippo to get out of the water, and I think he was actually he was in the process of doing that when we came along, and unfortunately seems to be a little bit nervous. And the hippopotamus in this waterhole, the young bull that is here, I must confess, I don't think is the bravest hippopotamus in the world. He's not one to leap out of the water in front of vehicles and display a great deal of athleticism and excitement. And so we'll just give him 1 minute and see if he doesn't get out of the water. But I suspect that with us here, he's just not going to do that. Alas and alack. Oh, and the smell of the... I tell you what, I don't know what it is. I guess it's the drying grass. I guess it's the fact that the grass is getting drier that's making it smell so very delicious. There's a really lovely smell about the drive. Come on, why don't you get out? That hippo, of course, can see nothing of us other than our outline. It's not able to see the light that is shining on it, the little green or little red light.
And in the background, the white whistling duck. Come on, out you get. Be brave and strong. Take a chance. Throw caution to the wind. Just not going to happen, is it? All right, let's continue. And you're all calling him the Emerald Hippo. Well, I think that's quite an honour for him, to be honest. All right, Martin, let us go back to normal light. There we are. You can see I got the spotlight working, which is good news. Hello, Alexander, all the way from Scandinavia. Which part of Scandinavia do you come from? Is it the same part as Rebecca's ancestors come from? That is Denmark. Is it the same? Is it the inexplicably languaged Finland? Or is it perhaps Sweden or Norway? Alexander, you want to know what the scariest part of my trip to India was? Well, the scariest part of my trip to India was trying not to get Delhi belly. Now, many of you, of course, will know that Delhi belly is a condition caused by unfamiliar bacteria. So if ever you go to a place that is unfamiliar to your stomach, it doesn't matter whether it's in Africa or Asia or America, and as soon as you drink the water in those areas, well, you can cause yourself some sort of distress. And that distress is felt, well, in the digestive tract. And unfortunately, neither Graham, Emily, or I managed to escape that particular thing, and that was the most fearful thing we saw. But Alexander, in the natural world, the second thing to be afraid of when travelling in India is the driving. It is my considered opinion that the people of India have the strangest, and that's a kind way of saying, most interesting driving style in the world. How would I describe it? Let's take Johannesburg as a sort of opposite. Now, in Johannesburg, people are extremely aggressive on the roads. They drive very fast, very aggressively, probably a bit like in New York City. And if people had the same attitudes as they do in New York City and Johannesburg, they would almost certainly die instantly on the Indian roads. In India, people weave in between lanes, sort of, if you're driving along and somebody wants to turn, well, then they'll just turn straight across you. But somehow, very few people manage to hit each other, and it is a miracle of the human spirit, because people there are so unaggressive. They're just so completely relaxed about what they do on the roads. And so that was quite terrifying for Graham and I, because often we thought we were definitely going to have a head-on collision. But in the natural world, I think there was very little to be afraid of at all. They don't do a huge amount in the way of walking safaris. In fact, they're very unusual in many parts of India, and so we didn't get to do that. And most people said, look, we wouldn't walk here because, well, it's a bit nerve-wracking. And I think it's just simply because, much like if you said to the average Kruger guide, would you walk here? They'd say, no, well, we don't walk, we just do the drives, because it's a national park. So you can do some walking safaris, but it's unusual there. And I think that seems to be because people there have been some bad experiences with the one-horned rhino and with the elephants on foot. But I got to tell you, the elephant and rhino sightings that we had there was no sense of threat from the animals at all. And indeed, I know that Indian elephants can become quite nasty if you threaten them, as most animals can. I didn't get the same sense of, yes, they were magnificent, but I didn't get the same sense of kind of stay there and watch yourself like you often do with the elephants here. Now, we only had 2 or 3 elephant sightings, so I'm sure that's not always the case. And what else? The tigers, of course, that we did see, we were very lucky to see, were relatively far away, and so I didn't manage to get any sort of sense of threat from them. But a tremendous, tremendous experience. Wonderful, wonderful country. Okay, let's head across to Brent, who has got a silhouette of not an Asian, but an African elephant.
we had a silhouette. Nearly moved on, as they tend to do. It looks like a nice young bull, probably around 30 or 25 to 30 years old, but he's on a mission. So I think we're going to see where he's missioning to, but in infrared. There we go. So he should be able to just make his bottom out in front of us. He's on a serious mission. We parked, he just walked straight past us. Where are you off to, mister? There is a bit of water left in Philemon's dip. Maybe he's going for a little mud bath. He looks like he's had one a bit earlier today. But he does seem to have that sort of high-speed water walk on. Now you can see the dust which is actually obscuring the camera at the moment that he's causing as he walks, as he sort of jogged down the hill. Isn't this cool? Now I can just make him out on the road ahead of me, but I'm watching my monitor. And it looks like he's... Yes, go that way. That's where the mud is. Go play in the mud, please. Oh, maybe he's found a nice bit of grass to munch on. You just hear him breaking that grass. Off he continues, and we're going to stick with him. I'm just going to give him a little bit of time to get around this corner. I don't want to sort of surprise right behind him. So of course, there he is. I can just sort of make him out. Yes, there. Oops, sorry, that's my bad driving. Not Viem's camera work. And so he's probably hunting for a herd at the moment. Oh, that's a little bit of a wheel spin there. It's just changed into low range. This infrared capability is so cool. Hi, Reese would like to know, in the future, will hybrid electric vehicles be used on safari? I think it's a strong possibility when the technology catches up. Now, as good as electric vehicles are, it's a bit difficult for them to do some of the off-roading and stuff we do, where you need a little bit more power. So, oh, we were hoping he's going to go against that wonderful last light of the sky again. He might stop and feed on that marula. That's what he did a bit earlier. No, he's not going for the marula. He's going to the hyena den. We were just there, mister. There are no hyenas there, don't worry. Okay, we're going to let him disappear off into the bush, become the grey ghost. And turn on our lights again. Now, James just snuck past us as well. I'm trying to think. Vildy, when was the last time we tormented James? It's been a while, hasn't it?
Yep.
I think maybe this week. Time to play a trick on James again. Oh, what a magnificent evening. I know the smells are just incredible at this time of the year. I can smell where that elephant's just passed. It is definitely one of the most synonymous smells of Africa, the smell of elephant, and then that massive herd of buffalo and the dust. Now, I think to play a trick on James, it's going to take a bit more planning. He's becoming more wily these days, so I don't think it's going to be today, but I think sometime this week. I think definitely I'm going to use VM as my co-conspirator. VM is very good when it comes to those type of things. So now while we scheme about what nefarious act we're going to take on James Hendry with, we're going to say goodbye. It's been wonderful. Unfortunately, the leopards were not on our side, but we know where Shungile and Hosanna are now. Hopefully they'll be back in the morning, and hopefully the magical Queen Karula makes an appearance as well. So again, from Vim and myself, bye, see you in the morning.
Yes, the leopards have not been on our side. There was a lovely sighting actually. I sort of half shared with you there as we snuck past Brent. Gorgeous to see that elephant silhouetted against the late sky. Well, we have about 2 minutes left to find a cat of some sort. And so I will just say to you, our species list in India, for those of you interested in the big game, lots of birds that we saw. Probably about 60 species or so. And then we saw 5 tigers, many one-horned rhinoceri, and 2 or 3 herds of elephants, lots and lots of water buffalo, something called a spotted deer, gorgeous creature about the size of an impala. Lion. We didn't see a lion in India. That's a lion there. Right, let's go infrared. Lights down. This lion is hunting. Are we infrareded? There we go. Well done. Perfect. Good job. Are we infrared? There we are. Well done. Okay, I now can't see anything, so I'm going to have to follow you, Martin. I better just call this in. Right, quickly call this in. Stations 1 lioness on quarantine clearings, mobile in a northerly direction. Animals are definitely hunting. This is going to be worth watching, I think, for a little while. She's on the hunt, almost certainly. We know the wildebeest herd was here. Did hear the impala alarming, but they've stopped now, and I wonder if there isn't an ambush afoot. I'm going to ask Rebecca to tell Brent to go around the eastern side of quarantine. We're on the western side, and just see if he can't pick up something that side, maybe. Can you still see the lion? Well spotted. Something's calling, a bird. Okay. You gotta... I can't even see where you're looking. Okay, now I can see. Just behind this bush. Just keep going. So I'm now navigating by means of the... There you go. By means of the same picture that you're seeing. So we're pretty much parallel with her, right? Go ahead. Ooh. They've been spotted, I'm afraid. Let me just call that in. Yeah, stations, these animals have definitely been spotted. Impala now alarm calling. Animal is now coming onto quarantine clearings
going north at the junction with that Fireside Chat Road. Yeah, you can hear the impala going. Amazing that, because I can't see that line with my naked eye. You and I would not be able to do it. But clearly the impala have got far better eyes than us, unless there's another lioness that side. Let's keep going. Brent says they're wildebeest on the eastern side, where he is. Is she not on the road there? Just look on the road in front of us. Ooh, we've lost her. Oh yeah, she sneezed. Look, look over there. Anything there? There she is. Thankfully she's got a bit of a cold. She's running now. Now I cannot see her but for the same picture that you're getting. Ooh, where are we going? Okay, I'm going to turn up onto here. Can you still see her? There she is. Got her, well done. Now, Station's animal is now northern side of the clearings. Still mobile north by northeast. Only one station here at the moment. You'll see her. I might have to flick some lights on quickly. Oh, no. You got her. You can see eyes blinking. No, there's a car. Okay, I'm going to have to turn the lights on to have a look. There she goes. Okay, she's now turned south. Now this is the difficulty, of course, is that I cannot see what's going on in front of me. Luckily we're on the clearings. Station's lioness is now mobile south. She's turned round. Can you still see her at all there, Martin? Yes, there's going to be lots of shaking. Go left a bit. Okay, copy. Yeah, I think that's where she's heading, Brent. Brent says he's got the wildebeest in front of him. Let's just quickly keep this going. I know we're now well over time, but we're just going to keep it going. The spotlight is clearly about to give up. There she is. She's just to the right there. I'm now heading straight towards her. You got her there. Well done. Oh, gosh. Didn't see that stick. No. Alright, chaps, I think we're going to have to call this. Oh, there she is. No, that's a wildebeest. Okay, let's just be quiet and let's wait here. Because this lioness is quite close to this wildebeest. Where has the lioness gone? She must be right here, somewhere. Still impala, alarm calling behind us. Might be worth just waiting here to see if she doesn't come launching out of the bushes. So that's dead straight in front of us. Just look to the left behind this wildebeest. Yeah, behind that bush. Nothing there. I'll go back to the wilde and maybe just scan to the right as well. Now they're impala alarm calling the other side. Now I think that he has heard the lioness. He's not far in front of us now, actually you can see him quite easily. I'll give this 1 minute and then we'll move around to the other side. Yes, I know. Isn't it confusing? Right now he's using his ears and his nose more than he's using anything else. Impala alarm calling off towards Inga's house. Yeah, and that's what Brent reckons is the other lioness. Okay, copy that. Let's move slightly. I'm going to leave the wilde where he is and just move to where he's been looking. Now, of course, this is all very good practice for any kind of night hunting that we want to film. It's not easy and would be substantially easier with a thermal camera, of course, which hopefully we will have at some stage. There, what's that? Is that an impala? Yes, it's an impala looking at the wildebeest. See if you can find the wilde again. Should be just off to the left. There's Leo Smith. That's his infrared light. There's the wildebeest, sorry. That hit a small hole. Turn left, 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 go left. Go left. There go the wildebeest. The lions are going to chase. The lions will be chasing. Huge herd of wildebeest running. Keep the camera up. Oh, we're in amongst the dust. Wonderful stuff. Where are the lions now? Of course, once they've given chase, we can probably turn the lights on. It'll be okay. Let's go in from behind. Well, they gave chase. I'm not sure that they're going to have succeeded there, though. There she is. I'm afraid they made a mess of that one. Wonderful. That was great. All right, everyone. I think we're going to pack this up. I'm afraid you're leaning on your radio again, Martin. We're going to pack this in. We obviously don't know how much effect we're having and how much we aren't. But thank you very much for joining us on our little show today, our wonderful drive, which ended up pretty action-packed. We'll see what these lionesses do and keep you informed about it in the morning. Until then, well, I hope that you stay very... Oh, this is the longest 30 seconds of my life. We're going to just see if we can't maybe stick with them for a bit longer, and we'll see what they do. So thanks for coming. A big thanks to the Final Control and to Brent and Jamie. We will see you all tomorrow as Brent disappears into the distance there at 0600.